Wasabi.
So today we're gonna I wanted to get everybody together so we could talk about fighting games, because that's a subject that's kind of near and dear to all of us, because we all grew up like really involved in fighting games and shit, and plus because we've been seeing all the bullshit with the fighting game community over the years, the last recent years. And the fact too that like fighting games was usually like a excuse the crying in the background. That's the baby in the background crying with his mom. But no, like fighting games used to be something that we always could count on in your video game library. It doesn't matter what the time period was. And now, all of a sudden, with all these first-person shooters that look the same and act the same, somehow that's taking precedence in fighting games. We've got so few fighting games, and like even fewer that are worth talking about or even playing.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to talk about what we liked, what we grew up on, where we came into the fighting game franchises and all that good stuff, and just geek out about that. So I have Ryasuke on one side, he's over in Cali.
Salutations.
I've got Clarion Prime over on the other coast in New Jersey.
Happening.
And then I've got my homeboy Agent O right here with me. What up, fam? And then you guys know me, I'm Strident. And so we're just going to jump into it and start the geeking. Let the geeking begin. So first thing I wanted to talk about was like, what kinds of fighting games did you guys, and I kind of know this from talking to you guys, but what kind of fighting games did you like, genre-wise, like style-wise? Like, did you like the more fantastical, Darkstalkers or Versus game style ones, or did you like the more, the slower kind of chess game type ones, like the way Street Fighter was when it first came out, or like Eternal Champions and shit like that, like what ones appeal to you guys? We'll start with you, Agent O.
I really didn't have a preference.
Yeah.
I mean, like after playing like Street Fighter 2, because I had never seen Fighting Street or whatever until like my sophomore year in high school. So I'd already played Street Fighter 2, and I was just hooked. As long as it had an interesting, engine and had some interesting characters I could get into, I was down for it. Which it kind of sucks nowadays.
No, they don't exist.
Yeah, or like the games that are out now, like the Blaze Blue series and all those other 2D fighters that you don't see as much here unless you're deep into the fighting game community. They just don't. For some reason, there's something about them they just don't interest me like the old games used to.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Prime?
Let's see. Of course, the original Street Fighter got me in the door. Like, I remember how amazed I was, and I'm like, oh, if I play the control on the right side, I get to be a different guy.
Yeah!
I was like, so, that just, blew my mind. But no, that game, and I followed Street Fighter for a bunch of years after that. I was out of it around the alpha time because I just wasn't very good at that moment. That was when I thought they had passed me by.
Yeah.
Around mid to late 90s, I'm like, all right, I can't be doing this anymore.
So it was the Street Fighter style games that you dug?
Yeah, and I like the more like you said, like the more oddball stuff, because I guess because at that point when I was really playing them, again, like a lot of people were ripping on Street Fighter for obvious reasons. So then when Capcom brought out Darkstalkers, I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool, like moving monsters and stuff, and I'm watching it move in front of me. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
You play the game, it's kind of wacky. So that became one of my favorites. I like some of the earlier stuff that Axis put out. I like I like Guilty Gear. There, I said it.
It's okay. Nah, Guilty Gear's not horrible. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and I tried to follow with Blaze Blue. Couldn't really stay into that game. Not like I did Guilty Gear, But I definitely have some love for that. And of course, I don't want to steal your thunder. But 3D fighters like Tekken was the big one.
Yeah.
Virtua Fighter was there too. Couldn't really go over the floaty jumps in that game though.
Floaty. What about you, Ryasuke? What kinds of fighting games did you dig the most? Jumping into the fighting game genre.
Oh, okay. This is very hard. For me, it would be any game that said fighting game.
I was like that in the
That's
beginning.
kind of how I was too.
I was like that in the beginning because, like, yeah, go ahead.
It's so bad. I'm actually obsessed with fighting games. I will play every kind of fighting game there is, and I even try to find some redeeming value of some of them.
Yeah.
Can't be saved. Of course, over the decades, that has changed. But when I first started out, I just absolutely love fighting games. But let's see. She wants to start out. I think they're around the same time. So if you guys have a, I don't know, built-in, date and time, I don't know. But Super Showdown and Street Fighter 2 were both like the two I played the most at the arcades when those existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look it up on Google. Arcade.
I know, right? What is this? Watashi wa arcade. Nan desu ka?
Nani?
Street Fighter 2 because like the first time I saw like the musculature of like Ryu, right? And like his kicks were like anatomically kind of correct, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the kicks and that was like the foot sweeps. I was just like, this is amazing. Like
Yeah.
just the detail they went in there. And I liked SNK fighters. I mean, even the ones that all you guys would probably crap on, and I'm talking about World Heroes.
Oh, I played that.
I was gonna say, because when you finish, I'll go into mine too. Because my first fighting game wasn't Street Fighter.
Oh,
Shit,
wow.
it wasn't even my first fighting game. It wasn't from SNK or Street Fighter, which is kind of weird when you think about it. But continue, and then I'll go.
Oh, I was saying I love SNK's like 2D sprite work, like art, like
Oh, yeah.
And second Samurai Showdown, they're Horomaru and their moveset, even the backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of in that. I think you guys know what I'm talking about, where it's all grass,
It's like, yeah.
That's a movie.
And the fact that the fucking camera used to zoom in and zoom out. No one else did that shit.
Yes, that was it. Yeah, I noticed that too. Very intense, very ahead of its time, and nobody else does that. The further you got back, the camera would zoom way back.
Yep. So you could see everything, and the setup felt like you said, just like a movie, like a still from a old school letterbox Chambara film.
Or when they used to clash weapons, you'd have to fight each other.
Yeah.
Fight button mashing.
That, yeah. Gave it an intensity about it. You're so right. Yeah, just little things like that.
Yeah.
And those were a little bit more of a chess match because you do one strong attack and it's taking like 30%.
Yeah. I used to love that shit, man. Yeah, those were good games.
But go ahead there.
For me, the first fighting game I played was Rocky on the fucking Master System. And that was the first time I got like competitive about it. I don't know if you guys ever played that game. It was funny. Like, everyone picked Drago because he was the biggest guy, so everyone knew you could beat the shit out of anybody with your simple jabs and everything. But, it was the first time I actually sat down and thought about the strategy of a fight in a video game. Then I played Fatal Fury. That was my first like real fighting game, like recognizable by most fighting game fans. And that shit was awesome. And I was kickboxing back then, so of course I picked Joe Higashi. And the fact that there was all these cool, like, there's energy around his kicks and his jumping knee and all this, like, moves that we were learning. And I'm seeing this guy do it, and there was like a giant tiger around his whole body when he does his big old jumping knee and shit. It was like, damn, this is awesome. And then, of course, we played Mortal Kombat. I was big into Mortal Kombat when it first came out. But Street Fighter, like most of you said, took the cake. But it really took the cake when Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo came out. Like, I was playing it, but I wasn't like super competitive. And then when Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo came out, I was like retarded competitive. I was going to Atlantic City. I was going to places in Ohio, and this is when we still lived in Jersey. The one time that I did go to Evo, we were playing Street Fighter 3 and Super Turbo. And like, I was entering tournaments in Turbo all over the place just because. Shit, we even used to play that a lot with my one homeboy, Eric. He had a 3DO, and he had the port. Because remember, Turbo never got ported until way later. It was ported in the Street Fighter Collection, the first volume of the Street Fighter Collection. You got like an arcade version of Super Turbo. And they didn't do anything with the music or anything, whereas the one for the 3DO had like fancier music and like the graphics were redone and the colors were like kind of, you know, amped up for the system because, you know, you're playing on a CD-based system. And this was before the PS1 version came out. So, yeah, that was where I was like at the best. And so, like, personally, my favorite types of games are the more insane ones, like the versus games. I like I like 2D, like crazy, insane, big ass moves covering the screen and shit. That's what I dug about Samurai Showdown 2. Some of the characters' moves got really big and started covering a good portion of the screen. Like Charlotte had that one move where she does like a Star of David. You know what I'm talking about? That like,
I love that move.
Yeah, she was like she was my favorite. Her and Jubei were my favorite characters in that game, and they had a similar play style. And the move was hard to do, but when you hit somebody with it, it was done. But
broke their weapon and everything.
And everything, yep. And yeah, I dug that when the moves cover the whole screen because then you get the idea of the intensity. Not that, you know, simpler stuff, like I said, Rocky, come on, like, it could get intense with the 3 or 4 characters you pick. You know, everybody had their person, but yeah, I dug the insanity of those other games, you know. What was, I guess we just answered 2 of the questions I was going to ask. So, like, what are the things in all the games that we liked starting out that we mentioned, what are the things about, like, their engine that made them unique enough for us to, like, be hardcore, like, into them? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if you're playing, I'll give an example. Like, you know, if you're playing Soul Edge, the first Soul Edge, it had, weapons had their own energy. So you could break your weapon if you just swing like a retard and keep on hitting, you know. You could still fight without your weapon. You also had the clench, where if you and someone else swing and your weapons hit with the same strength, if it was your hard, your hard strike, they would clench.
Aren't you talking about Samurai Showdown in 3D?
Yeah, well, no, we're talking about all of them in general, but I'm giving an example. Like,
you know, that's how I felt about Soul Edge when it first came out. Because, remember they did that? They clinch and the weapons would break. You know, I was like...
It was like Samurai Showdown in 3D, yeah.
Samurai Showdown in 3D.
Yeah. Now, what were you going to say, Scott? I heard you in the background. Sorry.
No, I was just kind of not disagreeing with what you were saying.
Yeah. Like, those things were, like, engine-specific, you know, and they were unique to those games. What kind of other stuff, like, I don't know. I know you said, everyone said Street Fighter, so maybe we should just go around with Street Fighter. What were the things about Street Fighter that you dug engine-wise? Like, you know, very specific to the game. You could only do it in Street Fighter before other people started biting. Like, what were the things that were specific to Street Fighter that you guys dug?
Hell, the projectiles. I mean, like, that was the first time I'd ever played a fighting game where...
People have projectiles.
You could throw a fireball in it, or you know, Sonic Boom or whatever.
And it was so easy to do. Everybody was doing it.
Yeah. You'd have to strategize and try and jump over to get close enough to the character. If you played with a character that didn't throw anything.
Yeah.
I mean, charge moves were kind of different because you had to, you know, you couldn't always be on the offensive.
Yeah.
So you definitely had to stop and think about what you were going to do and kind of pre-plan.
Mm-hmm.
God, I mean, I was never that good at Street Fighter. I always loved playing it, but I sucked at it. Tekken is like more my thing, so
yeah, you're a monster at Tekken. It took you a while though, because I remember we used to beat the shit out of Phil in Tekken, and like we'd be playing at the at the computer lab. You'd keep coming around, and we just keep on hustling you, and then he got good as king, and then it was over from there. He got really good, so yeah. What about you guys? Sorry, we've been talking. My bad.
Well, go ahead, carry on.
What was it? I guess as far as with the Street Fighter engine, I'm trying to remember. I do like. I got really used to like using Ryu and Ken in the beginning, and then, like you said, you mentioned the charge characters. I discovered Guile, and I think that's when I started hitting my strides. Because like it was easier for me to like, not easier for me, but I could plan, like you said, plan like 1, 2, 3 moves ahead when I'm using Guile, because again, if you particular tactics, if you like jumping, then you can start charging your move while you're in the air and all these other things like that, and all that stuff really worked out for me. And plus he had like a really like wicked projectile too, so that was kind of fun to work that in.
Yeah, and back in the day you could walk behind it. Remember that?
Yes.
You throw the slow one, the jab, Sonic Boom, and just follow it. Oh man, those are the days. What about you, Ryosuke?
Let's see, the engine itself. Wow,
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna have to say ditto to Agent O, man. Like projectiles.
Projectiles.
Actually, just let's record what he said and go and just play back.
Rewind. Yeah, I'm gonna throw in the thing that stood out for me was Dizzy's. I always picked characters that were like fairly. I like the in between, like not quite Ken and Ryu, even though I started playing with Ken first. But I liked the faster characters. So I used to play as Chun-Li, and back then, you know, you could dizzy people and then re-dizzy them. And then when I learned with characters like Guile, I was a charge person, and I've been playing with Guile for way too damn long. And when you learned, like back in the day, you could hit them with 2 fireballs, you know, 2 projectiles used to get people dizzy. And if you hit them with 2 more, the first one would wake them up, the second one would dizzy them again. And this is like Champion Edition to like, or Street Fighter to like Champion Edition, and from Champion Edition to what is it, Turbo or Hyper Fighting, they changed the dizzying, like what could get you dizzied. And with Guile, I just found so many ways to re-dizzy and dizzy people. Shit, even in, well, I won't go further. I'm just going to talk about Street Fighter because that's what we were talking about. Just dizzying people was cool, where you could just combo the shit out of them, and then you're like, wow, it actually did something. It didn't just take their energy, but now I can just go crazy on them. And then you know, of course, you learn to destroy the controller to wake your guy up, like, get out of it, wake up. And but it just made it feel more like a real fight. Because if you ever been in a real fight and you get hit a certain way, you're kind of like staggered. And it was like, holy shit, like they just blinded me with all these moves, and now I'm staggered. What the fuck? Now I got to figure out how to get out of it, and you're destroying the joystick and hitting all the buttons and all that. It just was fun. It added to the intensity of the game and the, you know, urgency.
I did think of something else. I was always after the elusive Shin Long.
Lord. You got to stand in the corner for that one. That was awesome.
With the Dante? Oh, man.
What about Nimbus? Nimbus Terrafax in the first Mortal Kombat, the secret black dude fighter on the pit. Remember that? Uh-oh, you guys, nobody remembers Nimbus?
No, I don't actually.
Yeah.
Nah, Nimbus Terrafax. Look him up.
That was the first one?
Yeah, that was in the first game. He wasn't actually in it. It was an April Fool's joke, just like Shenlong. But shit was hilarious. People saying that, I fought Nimbus, I fought him. And I'm like, no, you didn't. It was a fucking April Fool's joke.
Yeah, how to get shit on.
And there's people who still swear to this day that they fought Shenlong. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You couldn't have fought Shenlong. He doesn't exist. Oh, man.
I mean, wasn't that he was the inspiration for
Akuma. Yeah. Because it was like some type of mistranslation or some shit. Man. There was a lot of cool shit with Street Fighter. Here's a good one. Were you guys more into competition, or did you just play for fun?
Both. I mean, I wasn't like entering. The only tournament I ever entered was a Mortal Kombat tournament at my like local comic shop when it came out on the Genesis, because after everybody found out what the blood code was, everyone bought the Genesis version and nobody bought the Super Nintendo version. So
with the sweat, you be getting uppercut. All this sweat would be coming like milk.
Freaking like sand flies off the people.
Yeah.
The SNES version. I'm like, oh, it's not even gray. It's friggin' sand.
But yeah. I mean, I'd play like in the arcade and stuff, and I'd play people, and that was always cool. But I never really entered tournaments. Like, I wish I could have like went back and did that.
Yeah.
But I never felt I was that good anyway. So it was more like a casual, competition type of thing.
Shit.
I had low self-esteem, so I couldn't do tournaments.
Wow.
I know that was the other thing, because if you didn't do them, because I remember when I played, like, I won like my first like 3 matches, and then I started getting really hyper aware of everything going around me, and it took me out of the game, and I ended up choking.
Yeah.
Hyper aware. It sounds like you're a mutant, Agent.
Reacting to all the stimuli.
See, what happened is that your power was coming into being, and it wigged you out. Instead of accepting your power.
I needed Professor X to train me so I could control it.
Yeah, I know, right?
You're the future, Agent O, not them.
You should have had Obi-Wan in your voice. Let go, dude.
What about you, Ryosuke? What was your preference? Were you more of a competition type, player, or were you playing just for fun in general?
Let's see. So Friday night, me and the homies would get together, order pizza, beer, snacks, gummy bears, cakes, and we would come over to my house or my other friend's house. It was about 4 to like 6 of us, like that many, and we would play till like 2 o'clock in the morning. This is when Blockbuster existed, so we would try to get like mostly fighting games, because you could switch off. So we'd get the Mortal Kombat, or other people would bring their games, right?
Yeah.
And we would sit there and talk shit. We would play competitively too, and we'd do mean things like, okay, if you lose so many rounds, you can't have this many pieces of pizza or something.
That's a motivation.
I know, right?
It was motivation. It was crazy. We never did money because we were just cool like that. But we always, came up with, not super crazy things,
yeah.
like mostly food related or crazy things like, okay, well, since you lost, so many rounds, you got to take him, and him home. You know what I mean? So,
wow.
But yeah, I never. By the time tournaments became big, I was too old. I think I was in my 30s. I guess. So I missed that.
Be alone.
What's that?
You wouldn't be alone. You wouldn't be the only 30-year-old there.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of them, man. Older than that too. The guy that fixes my who's fixed my PS3 a couple times, he's in his 50s and he's been playing in tournaments. He was, I think, in his late 20s when they first started doing all that shit, and he's been playing tournaments since then.
Yeah, I would say the only other thing for me, I guess, would have been like I said, like Ryosuke's doing. Like I remember a couple times. You remember our friend Andy, right? Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, we be over there, get him, his brother, some of his friends, some other of our friends, and we get the Circle of Doom.
Yeah.
So then you just start, and it was basically like playing in the arcade. It was just as friggin' frustrating, because if you lost, you had to wait for like six other
people to go before you. Yeah.
You got to play again.
Man, my situation's different. So like, so we did that. We did the Circle of Doom stuff. We did, we always had friends that played. They played the game, but they didn't play in the same arcade that we played in. So I always went to the arcades and I played the hell out of whatever, and it would always turn into a competition, because if you start winning, then they all want to take you off the stick. And like for me, I always tried to do fancy shit that looked cool, so that when I win, everybody's like, "Oh shit!" And it was easier in the versus games than it was in like old school Street Fighter, because old school Street Fighter, you didn't have super jumps, you didn't have the pushback moves, you didn't have as many tricks, offensively to like deal with what's going on. It was just time your.
You couldn't even air block, so
yeah, exactly. It was just time your moves. It was a chess game, and you were kind of. It was like, some people prefer. Like, I prefer combos to chips, and I don't mean combos to food. I mean my combos in the games, as opposed to just chip damage, And a lot of people like to slowly peck at their opponent all day long until they finally win. So now I would always do flashy, hard to do stuff so that I could, I'd amaze myself, like get into it and look at it and be like, oh shit, I could actually do that, and then people would see it and be like, oh, you think you're good? Blah, blah, blah. And then we get into a long back and forth. And then when the home systems came out, in my school, I was one of the better players when it came to fighting games, because that's all I played. That and like Sonic. So they would always tell their friends, yo, this kid thinks he's so good, we should go over there and play him and you could beat him. So they'd come over, and at the time I taught my little brother how to play Street Fighter, and I'd be like, look, if you can beat my little brother, then you can play me. And they'd be like, man, I'm going to beat the hell out of this like 5-year-old or 6-year-old kid. And then they play him and they get embarrassed, and then they go back to school and they tell more people. And then it was this long chain of people trying to, get that lucky win off, and when they get that one round, then they want to brag about it. I always hated that.
Wait a minute, Straight. So let me get this straight. So your little brother was the mini boss, and you were the boss.
Yep.
The sub boss.
I turned him into the sub boss. We used to call him the guinea pig, and like I was like, if you can beat the guinea pig, then you can play against me. And it was funny because my mom would force, like, since I was the oldest, she'd force me to bring him where I went. So when I went to the arcade, I brought my little brother with me. So I had to include him and teach him how to do what I was doing. Otherwise, he'd just complain. So I taught him. And so he saw the tricks that some of us used. And then I showed him how to make it make sense. And then he would play with us and play against me and practice. And we got really good that way, going back and forth. He's pretty smart. He actually figured out a lot of stuff quickly. But, yeah, people just love, for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's a New Jersey thing. I don't know. Maybe it's an East Coast thing. They just want, so everyone wants to tell their cousin to take you down. Oh, my cousin could beat you. No, he can't. Like, yeah, he can. Then they come over. You can't beat the guinea pig, so you definitely can't beat me. And it would follow us to the arcades too. The same thing. Him and I would be playing, and we would always take turns. Like in my group, we would we all had the games we liked to play, so we didn't really like challenge each other as much once we got to that point where we could win tournaments kind of consistently in that one game. You know what I mean? So like I had a homeboy that his game. You remember Gabe? Clarion. Do you remember Gabe?
No.
Gabe,
I don't.
Gabe used to talk all this shit, and he used to play Samurai Showdown, and supposedly he was the best at it. So then we played him in Samurai Showdown, and then he was no longer the best at Samurai Showdown because he talked more shit than he did learn, you know, skills. So he only knew. I know, right? Because that's what we have a lot of right now. A lot of guys that prefer to talk, and I have to throw in when they talk their shit, I'd be like, okay. And then when we get on the stick, I destroy them because I'm not trying to talk shit. I just want you to see that, you know, I'm about the work right now, and the work is this game. So I'm going to put it in, you know what I mean, and let you know that I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it caught on, and people would talk about it. And then there was a guy named Dre that we used to go to school with, and Dre's dad sold drugs. Dre had all the games, every system. He had so much ridiculous stuff. He had like import versions of everything and the American versions. And he used to talk mess about games too. And then I beat him at Samurai Showdown 2. The first time I used Genjuro, I beat him. You know how he used to put his swords in the ground and grab you by the neck and slam you on the head?
Oh, yeah.
that was my character.
That's how I beat him. And he was so mad. So he kept trying to get people to beat me, to show up and beat me. And it just became this running thing. And that's why, as I got older, I preferred playing against the computer. Because I got tired of this retarded, it's like really boring. All these people just trying to beat you just for the sake of trying to beat you so they can, you know, you're just bragging and that's it. And it might be because we did martial arts for real that we had a different, you know, perspective. But yeah, that's my perspective on it.
So you reached the Musashi stage of the UFC?
I wish. No, I reached early retirement. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna stop doing this.
That's why I'm kind of sad that you know, even though our technology's progressed, we still can't get a fighting game nowadays that you can play
with
on the internet
with no lag.
Mm-hmm. Because I was so happy that when they finally, you know, you were able to connect, and I was like, cool, because, you know, now I can play people from other countries and whatnot, and I can't play because the lag is just so bad sometimes that you can't do anything. You can't do anything constructive with the rounds.
Well, not always.
Well, like you'll see most people stick to like really simple bulldog techniques, especially in Tekken.
Oh my god!
And it's because of the lag, they found like the simplest methods possible to still win and still continue to play. And if they would fix that, because I don't know how you can play a first person shooter with like 8 or 9 people. You know, 8 or 10 people
with
connected,
bullets flying through the air and everything,
and everything going on, and you have to be hair trigger with your reflexes, and you can't get the same thing with 2 people playing in a fighting game.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I stopped too, because Agent O used to try to get me to play Tekken. Like when Street Fighter 4 came out, that first week I was online smashing. I was 65-0 the first week. Then I played one time over at his house. It was like maybe the second week when I guess everybody finally had it and everyone was online. All this lag. Someone beat. I was playing as Akuma and someone beat my Dragon Punch playing as E Honda with the fucking sumo headbutt. which we all know was never invincible, and it never beat out a Dragon Punch. So it was like there was weird delays and weird crap. Yeah, and I just was like, if you can't make this shit official all the time, 100%, then I'm not fucking playing. Tekken, same thing. We try to play people online, and the lines, the matches, I mean, look horrible. It looked like this is our first time playing Tekken. Then we play in the same room, and it's the most immaculate shit going on because we all have been playing Tekken for what, 10 years?
Yeah.
So we all know like which moves work better, and we have an idea of what looks nice, and at the same time what's effective, you know. So yeah, online, I don't know. And a lot of people, you hear them talk all their shit about online, you know, on YouTube and blah blah blah. But I don't know. Maybe it's where we are, but I've rarely had a consistent experience where I could play smoothly online with no problem.
Yeah, like Tekken Tag 2, when it came out, I was playing a few games online and I was winning. And then I swear the day you came over, that was when the lag started, because I swear there was no lag the times I was playing. And
My fighting spirit was just so powerful. I fried your internet with my fighting spirit.
And then all this lag just started. I was like, man, fuck this, man. Because I thought they finally nailed it, and they just didn't.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Going back to Tekken, I mean, the online thing. Was somebody talking?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Scott might have. I thought Scott was saying something. Did you say something,
No,
Scott?
it's still just aggravating that they haven't figured out how, like you said, like you can get 16 people or whatever, 32 or 64 people in a friggin' fight in a shoot in an FPS, but you can't get 2 people
in a fighting
to play a fighting game with no lag.
With 100 moves tops.
Yeah.
You know, probably between the two of you, maybe 200 moves between the two of you, and they can't get that right. I don't know. But what were you saying, Ryosuke? Sorry.
Oh no, just doing, because when you guys were talking about Tekken, I have to bring up this kind of little short story here. Might turn it along how much I love to talk. Anyway, my wife, I got her into video games. Well, she played video games before, but the first, I liked fighting games, so on purpose, I introduced her to fighting games. And the first one that she played, that she put work in and she was really loving, was Toshinden.
Oh yeah, right? Ballerina Toshinden.
Yes. So she was a fan of Toshinden, and she would use like Ellis, right? You know, the girl with the little dagger.
Yeah, with the knives.
So here I go. Now check this out. Then she graduated from that and went to Plasma Sword.
Oh Lord! Wow. Yeah, Star Gladiator. Yeah.
Get this. She would beat it at the arcade.
Wow.
We would sit there at the arcade, and I would just sit here. I would sit there, and she would just keep playing, and she would finish the game, the whole game at the arcade, like never lost, not another quarter. She just destroyed it, right?
Jeez.
Then we went into Tekken. Then I taught her everything I knew about Tekken. She put in the work in there, and then she actually beat some people at the arcade at Tekken. Like that's how much the skill had went up.
Yeah, that's quality.
That definitely.
And, just incredible. I was like, I created a monster.
What have I done?
Here comes online. And now what happens? She doesn't play video games at all anymore.
Exactly.
It changed everything. I just wanted to share that story.
Yeah, it's true, though, because, like, you know, you'd think that by now, with all the tech that we have and how powerful, quote-unquote, all these systems are, online should be easy, you know. Generally, everyone's at least using DSL, at least, you know. And then they change or they're in the process of changing all the cables to fiber optic. So soon everything will be fiber optic, so they'll be using whatever the next thing is. Why is it that we can't just get one, like, universal bandwidth all across the board? It would make sense. It'd make shit easy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I don't know how all that stuff honestly works, because there's this dude I sometimes check his videos out. This guy named Helgen X, and I guess he lives in Japan. In Japan, they use all fiber optic, and he says he still experiences lag.
Wow.
Because he was really into he's really into Street Fighter. He was really happy when they did the HD remix of Street Fighter Third Strike.
Oh yeah.
But then he was angry when he played it because he was like, "You guys destroyed this game."
Yeah.
Because it doesn't play exactly like how it did back in the day, and he had videos explaining like how they fucked it up and
shit,
everything.
Don't let me, man. I could go on about that kind of shit. I had issues with the HD remix, man, the Super Turbo HD remix, because I was waiting for that because I read the Udon series, and I was like, oh, they're doing it. They're doing the art. So then that means the game's going to be amazing. So I got it, man. It was so many problems, like horrible lag from day one. So it was just like, I'll play it by itself. But then they upped the damage on all the bosses. Like, their output was insane. I mean, like, Bison could kick you out of a Dragon Punch.
Yeah, I remember Akuma threw a kick and it took like half your health.
Akuma could kick you and you'd be almost dead. And it just was like, this isn't fun because that's not how it was. I mean, he was powerful, but he was combo heavy. So he could hit you with more combos in the air and the ground. He had the air fireball. His hurricane kick sent you airborne so he could juggle you. And, like, they didn't put that in the game. Instead, they just overpowered the fuck out of the characters, and it just wasn't fun. So, I guess that would bring me to another thing. What is it that made... Because I know we're all interested, but we're not all, like... I don't know. Maybe you are, Ryosuke. I don't know. But I don't really buy fighting games like I used to. Like, I go back and buy old ones, but I don't really buy the new ones as much. I rent them, and then I check them out, and most of them don't meet my expectation, and I'm done. So, like... Is there anything that made you change your habits as far as playing and getting into all the fighting games? Like, and this is for everybody.
And nobody.
Question again? I'm a little confused.
Is there anything that made you? Because I don't know if this applies to you. Because you said you like anything with fighting in it, like any fighting game that's.
That was in the past.
Oh, okay.
Before.
So what made you change then, right now? Because for me, I don't like the fact that they make the games for casual players, and then the casual players join tournament circuits or whatever, and then they try to talk like pros. You know what I mean? And they're not pros because they watch YouTube and they imitate what the last champ did. They don't figure the shit out on their own. Mm-hmm. They copy someone else's technique, and then they go to a tournament, and either it works or it doesn't work. You know, it works with varying success depending on the player. Whereas when we were kids and we were playing in the arcade, we had to learn. We had to take those ass whoopings and learn. We didn't all use the same characters. We all used the character we liked the best. We all learned all their moves. We took our beatdowns and we learned how to get good as the character. So now I see these like halfway decent, maybe that's even an exaggeration. You see these kind of okay players. Then they're not doing anything special. The character is doing all the work, you know, because they pick a top tier. They pick a top tier character, and then they win, and then they talk shit. Like the one guy.
Have you noticed that there was not that term didn't exist when we were playing?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
We would all look at the person in the room. What the hell are you talking about?
Exactly.
Well, no, I take that back because
not in the 90s.
Well, what about when they used to what game magazine was it that they used to give you the little strategy guides?
Oh, Game Pro or something like
that.
Yeah,
and in there they used to have the little grid with all the characters and what tier they were in.
That was later. That was towards the end of...
That was like in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yeah. That was later. I'm talking early 90s, like...
And I knew people who were good with E-Honda.
Me
I
too.
knew people that were good with freaking Balrog. I knew people that were good with...
Anybody.
Well, lots of Guile players, right? Could destroy all the Ryus and Kins. Like,
that's me.
Oh my God, he loved playing Ryu and Kin players when he was Guile. He would just destroy them.
Yeah, because you knew the techniques and you thought about what you were going to do, and you had a strategy. You had a different strategy for each character, like a real fighter would do if he came up against a guy that was, 200 pounds bigger than him, or, you know what I'm saying, faster or whatever. So, yeah, that stuff is why I stopped. The fact that we don't have it like that anymore. Now it's minimal skill, and you have all this help, and then they talk maximum trash. Whereas like back in our day, it was like maximum skill, and then some people would still talk a lot of trash, but at least they had some kind of skill that they developed on their own to back it up. They didn't have any help. I mean, you had magazines that would say, these are the move lists for all the characters, but it wasn't like you could, huh?
Yeah, but they show like some of the heavier damage combos.
Yeah, exactly. Like they give you an idea of like, this is something you can do. It's not the best thing in the game that you could do. Whereas now you got these guys like, Justin Wong, who every fucking fight he's ever had is on YouTube. And you could just pick the best fights you want to pick from and copy what he did. I mean, it's so bad that the games have like the HD remix of Third Strike has like a challenge mode. And some of the challenges are shit that they've done in different tournaments. And it's like, really? Why can't we come up with our own shit? Like, I don't know. But once again, the fans love it. So that kind of stuff turned me off. What about you guys?
You guys can go first. My answer's a little long.
I mean, one of my gripes is it's also that but it's also how people nowadays, they really try to figure out like all the little things about the game engine itself.
That's
like
broken.
Instead of fighting, and then they exploit the hell out of it. Like I would have never thought back in the day to use, like back in the day playing Street Fighter, to use the screen to my advantage to pull people into like moves and combos and shit. I just never would have thought about it because I was all about using the skills that came with that character and applying that to fighting your opponent. Yeah. And so that's like one of the things that's turned me off to playing fighting games nowadays, is because everybody's sitting there watching frames and figuring out which moves do the most damage and have the lowest frame rate so that they can stay safe all the time. And that shit is like, I mean, yeah, it's there, but you don't need it to win. Yeah. But it's annoying that's what it's gotten down to. Like if I fight somebody in real life, their punch, I'm not going to look at their punch and say, "Oh, your punch is 15 frames." So I know that my dodge is 12 frames, so I'm going to dodge it each time. You can't do that in real life. So why do that in fighting games? Like fighting games have gotten away from creating characters that have a skill set.
That was awesome though, for real. It's like that's like the anime version of a fight. Like his punch takes 15 frames to reach my face. I could dodge his move in 4 frames.
Yeah, it's annoying now because now the characters are created with a certain like a formula. Yeah, with a certain formula and certain things you can exploit, rather than let me create a kickboxing character that does like Tony Jaa style moves, and let me create another kickboxing character that does more traditional, Thai boxing moves, and seeing how it all plays out. Yeah. Now it's just about these weird strategies and character gimmicks that I don't know, it kind of takes away from the fun, for me anyway, the fun factor out of the game. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
That was the best. What about you, Clarion?
I just started to not be very good at them.
It got to be too much.
No, because now I'm trying to remember like the last ones I bought. I'm guessing. Okay, the last one I bought was Mortal Kombat, whatever, 9, 2011, whatever you call it. Yeah. Before that was probably Blaze Blue. Before that was probably Street Fighter 4, and that's all the ones I got in this generation 3.
Yeah. Well, you bought, remember, in, what was that, 2010 or 9, you bought the collection, the Street Fighter, the one for PS2 with Street Fighter 3 on it.
Yeah, I have both of them. You got me one of them, the anthology, and then Alpha Anthology, and then I picked up the other anniversary collection.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think why I stopped playing them. Because I always mention this to you, because I'm like, if we lived closer, I would still be playing them. There's like all the people that I used to play these games with aren't around anymore. Yeah.
See, but that
moved, or they don't play games at all. So it's like
that's a point, though.
So much fun.
That's a point that I have to bring up. People say, because I always get on your case, I'm like, just play the computer. Play it on like a higher difficulty so you can get used to all the, the timing and shit like that. And then when we play against each other, you'll have more tricks and more, you know what I mean? Like more things. Because that's what we used to do. All of us would be in the room and we'd take turns trying to beat the game on like 8 stars. And like everyone had their little gimmicks and their little, style things and whatever. But that's what made us good enough that when we fought people in real life, they couldn't really throw anything at us that we weren't ready for, because we were always playing the game on like the most maximum. And you know how cheap Capcom and SNK games were when you play them on hard. Yeah. I mean, there's the term SNK boss syndrome. It's like an actual term. The shit happens. Capcom does it too, where like they slam you and you lose almost all your energy. And it's like, wait a second.
overpowered, so OP.
And it makes no sense, but it's to keep you, if you actually decide to use this, it would keep you that much ahead of like the human players, because they couldn't possibly pull off some of the stuff that the computer does. I mean, I've seen the computer before canceling frames was a thing. I've seen in regular Street Fighter 2, I've seen Bison on 8 stars cancel his moves and do other shit, which is why, you know, that's what prompted the ability for us to be able to do those things, you know? So that's one of those things, because I've heard other people say that they don't play certain games because no one plays that game. You know what I mean? Like, they won't buy I told a lot of people, don't buy Street Fighter 4. Go back and buy, and I probably shouldn't have, but I was working at GameStop. It's a sale either way. I was like, buy the anniversary collection, so you could play, you know, Super Turbo, and you could play Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which in my opinion and many is the best Street Fighter has ever gotten, and it's never going to get better than that. And everyone was like, nah, nobody plays it. I'm like, well, then show them, and then maybe they'll play it with you. You know what I mean? Like, let them see that it's actually a cool game. I know you'll like it once you start playing. And some people came back and they told me they liked it. Others just went back to the whole, you know, I got to play what my homeboys are playing. And I think that's weird with fighting games, because it does have a mode just for you. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have a ton of friends to play with, you know? Not to say that that's always how it has to be, because it is more fun with people. But, you know, that's just something you can do that people don't like to do. Just like they don't like the campaign mode in FPSs. And that's what you paid for, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's one of those strange things where it's like sometimes I feel them, and then sometimes I'm like, you could just play by yourself sometimes, you know, for practice sake.
I hear you.
Sometimes, though, you get used to what the computer does.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you play people, the unpredictability of playing a human opponent, if you're not prepared for it, because through playing people a lot, you have to get used to it all over again.
Yeah,
that's happened to me.
What the difficulty is, it's like, yeah, you can tell. When I used to play Street Fighter 2 back in the SNES days, like, I used to be able to tell, okay, fine, computer's got 50% health, and I would see the strategy shift.
Yeah.
And when they've got like 25 or 10% health, I would see another strategy shift. Like, all right, fine. So now I know what I need to stop and when.
Yeah.
Like, with other people, yeah, I don't know if people are doing all that thinking. Some people are just determined to land one combo, whether the match just started or whether they have, like, sliver.
It's true.
So.
No, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this should always be the way you do things, but I'm just saying that, like, you know, it's a tool, and it will help. It helps.
Yeah, it's another form of practice.
Yeah, it's practice, and it will help. You know, help you be more prepared. And, you know, if you keep changing the difficulty, you know, today you play 5 stars.
I used to go Iron Man style, man. I would just freaking hook up, like, when games started to have, like, a practice mode where you could give the AI dummy.
Oh, yeah. I did that too.
I would do that shit for like a half hour straight.
Yeah, I used to do that
just
too.
Wail on the fucker who's like at the highest difficulty. Once I knew what I was doing with a particular character, I just go at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, what about you, Ryasuke?
So, just kidding. Now, so for me, getting out of it, so what happened, I think, especially around the United States, probably not as much as elsewhere, as in Asia, because they love fighting games and that sort of thing. But we all got old, got married, had children. That was the golden age of fighting. I think pretty much we all grew up. And also, too, the people who were younger, like younger brothers and cousins, like I have cousins, right, who saw me play fighting games, saw me and my friends play fighting games. They saw how beast we were, and I think it kind of just like, I'd never be that good. You know? So, I mean, you enter in first-person shooters. This is my theory. This is my theorem, you know, I'm putting up on the whiteboard. I'm like, you know, doing my square roots, you know, putting up, you know, the peg, just putting up my own little, you know, formula. But really, I think that's what happened when all of those players stopped playing. Was like a vacuum. It just, there was nothing left. And so I think a lot of companies lost. They tried to make other fighting games, you know what I mean, but they just didn't survive. That's what I noticed. Like, you just saw this decrease in fighting games, which means only the big ones survive. Henceforth, Soul Calibur, you know what I mean, Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. You know, those are the main four that really kind of survived that. But yeah, I own several Guilty Gears, Blaze Blue, Melty Blood. I play a lot of probably fighting games you guys have never heard of because I import. Like, I have 3 PlayStations because one of them's totally like import. I have Super Famicom. I have the old Dragon Ball Z fighting games that fight like Street Fighter, like 2D, you know, where you're actually doing fireball motions.
Yeah, we used to play the old Gundam games.
Yeah, we used to play the Gundam ones a lot. Those were fun.
I think it's called Battle Assault.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that. Cyberbots, just Techromancer, I told you I have that.
Yeah.
Power Stone, Rival Schools, you know, just on and on and on. And when people stopped playing those, and I noticed that we didn't get a variety of fighting games, and people were just sticking with them, and then it turned into, and I think the tournaments maybe did this, turned it into all about winning versus just fun.
Yeah.
No characters. Everybody just wanted to win, so they would pick that top tier.
Top tier.
And that's what it came about. Like, you don't see that's why I can't even watch tournaments, because it's like nobody really does a lot of variety.
Yeah, you're right.
It's always like,
yeah, this past Evo was pretty boring.
The last 10 past Evos since 2006, there hasn't been a good Evo. I'm so happy I was there.
It's the same characters over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn it, this is boring. I'm like, I know you're beats with it, but fuck, I'd rather watch, you know, paint dry or flies fly. I mean, it was just boring.
And in some of those players, I'm not giving like any credit because, like, you know, oh, we're here in the quarterfinals, we're here in the semifinals, and friggin' whatever, Jolt Cola 95 playing with Seth.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, you're talking about that Korean dude?
Yeah, what's his name?
Yeah, I forgot what his name is, but yeah, I watched that match and I was like, he's playing as Seth. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, some friggin', like, obviously you should kick ass. You're the damn last ball.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say a while back.
Exactly.
And that kind of shit would never fly. We used to say that back in the day with Third Strike. When it came home on the Dreamcast, we were like, yeah, no fucking Gil. No one can pick Gil.
I like what you were saying about shame, like that. We would shame each other for doing that shit.
Uh-huh.
Dude, like, nah, you can't do that.
Well, first off, you pick the last boss, you kind of do paint yourself into a corner. It's like, you better win.
You better win, yeah. And then, if you don't get to get back on the stick for the rest of this time. Like, go sit in the corner and drink some soda. You can't play.
Yeah,
that's what you do, is like, you skip a turn if you lose with the boss.
You're doing the next snack run. Like
exactly. Like, matter of fact, go get the pizza and the snacks right now. Like, no, you failed. Because that doesn't make any sense. And people give those guys props, you know? The whole landscape has changed so much that it's just like, what the fuck? It's a joke when you look at it in comparison to what we did.
It's just about winning. Like, literally, it's just about winning. And I'm like, and obviously it's easy to win. And people use him, or whatever last boss in whatever game. I just use Seth because in Street Fighter 4 is it right now.
They use him
it's like, dude, like, they use him the same way I see the boss, like the computer use him on like high difficulties. I mean, you're doing all that cheap shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys remember the Sentinel? And
oh, Lord, yeah. Who does block, all his moves do block damage.
Chip damage, yeah. I mean, I would fight matches online where literally the guy just chip damaged me to death. Like, he just kept going. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Really? And I barely won, but dude, he took out the first character just like, I was like, is this guy really going to do this? Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Rocket punch.
That's like, yeah. But one thing I had to jump in and say, too, is as far as the sales and the creation of different fighting games, if you think back, right, when the arcade scene started to die down, which was the late 90s, we got the Dreamcast. And the Dreamcast had a lot of those fighting games that you mentioned, Ryosuke. They were all on the Dreamcast. I mean, you had every single one. Techromancer, Project Justice, which was the sequel to Rival Schools.
I think they were the first ones to get
Marvel vs. Capcom. Yeah, that was the first home version. They had Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which the play scheme, the control scheme, actually was changed for the Dreamcast. So it went from being 6 buttons to being 4 buttons that you attack with, and because you were on a home system, you got to use the triggers, or bumpers, or whatever people call them. Then you had all of the Street Fighter 3 complete, series was on the Dreamcast.
I also have the Darkstalkers collection.
Yeah, some of those. One of those was on the Dreamcast. It was like a a bundle, like
Yeah,
two,
I have
two games.
that. I have Techromancer. I have what is it? The Terry Bogard one with
Mark of the Wolves. Mark of the Wolves. So yeah, this is what I'm getting at, is that like all it did was, in that period, they moved from the arcades to the home system, and that was the place that it was moving to, was the Dreamcast. A lot of people they somehow, I don't know how to describe it, it just seems like, because there was new, and this is what happened when Tekken and Virtua Fighter came out, because there were newer stuff out, it was like the interest jumped from the 2D games, obviously, to the 3D games, and then less people were playing the 2D games, so they kind of faded out. And some of the games we mentioned were even 3D games, but Capcom never made sequels to some of them. Like Techromancer, it deserved a sequel, never did it. You know, Project Justice never got a third game. I remember them talking about it, but never did it. So
you would expect for them to do that stuff now.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
No,
they don't have the same people working
8 to 10
anymore for them to
times
do
much money and work to make a game. So
Yeah, I know, right?
Sorry, that ain't happening.
And when you think and you look back to the teams that made those games, the teams weren't that big. Most of the teams were less than 30 people. So like, for them to say it takes so much money and so much, yeah, you just fired the wrong people. You shouldn't have fired those guys that made those games so good. I mean, even the art teams they use now pale in comparison to the art teams they had before. So I don't know.
Same guys that worked at Epic Games playing making Gears of War, right?
Hold on, I got one last thing to add.
Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
That got me out of fighting games, and that is juggle combos.
Oh Lord.
Like
that was it for me.
The reliance on them is annoying as hell, because you like before, like when Tekken, when they first introduced juggle combos, you just would have people who would sit there and just turtle the whole time, hit you up in the air with the standard rising uppercut that like everybody had, and then just juggle, and that was the modus operandi for a lot of people that fought. And nobody ever created a fighting game other than Bloody Roar 3 where they actually put something into the game that forced you to not rely on juggle combos. Like that's why.
Yes, a great series.
Yeah. That's Bloody Roar 3 is one of my favorite.
Up to 3.
My favorite fighting games of all time, because you had moves. You had a move that you could dodge entire moves. You had juggle combos that were fucking in some of the most insane long juggle combos I've ever seen in fighting games. Period.
You had the air tech, so you could get out of the juggle combos.
and you could beast mode out of those juggle combos. There were several different ways you could get around it.
God, we used to play so much Bloody Roar 3. It was ridiculous. I'll kill you. Go away. We used to play the hell out of that game.
I can't stop now.
You guys are like laughing and smiling. It's like, where is that for the games now?
Yeah. They're not fun. It's like a job, and that's what I don't. Yeah. But continue. Continue. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're not creative enough, like they were back in the day with creating an engine that forces you to use the entire engine and not just one aspect. Of it. Like I was explaining to somebody on Kotaku about this, because
they don't want to hear that shit.
I forgot what we were talking about.
They never want to hear that shit, man.
But like I went in this long ass post about how Bloody Roar, like at least Bloody Roar 3, because after that the series kind of took a downturn for me, and I quit playing. But the game forced you to do all these. I mean, if you really wanted to win, you had to rely on dodging moves. You had to rely on combos. You had to rely on your character's move list, and the style they played in, because characters played with drastically different play styles. It just forced you to think
differently.
And I don't think a lot of games do that. Plus it made the matches go back and forth, which was awesome, because you could immediately go from being the aggressor to have to be going to the defensive to, blocking, and then start dodging moves, and then immediately counterattacking.
So good.
Yes.
Oh my God, when you're just dipping all these, like someone's doing a 13-hit combo and your dude is just dipping every single move, and then you slap him with something really hard. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and it wasn't just dial a combo either.
No.
You could delay certain moves too, the timing. So So if somebody got used to your timing with your combos, you could screw them up and make them whiff a move, whiff a dodge, and then you can catch them again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know. It just did so much shit that I don't see a lot of fighting games do anymore. Now it's just all like it's like Skull Girls. It's all about the juggles.
And yeah.
I do not like that game.
Me neither. It looking like Felix the Cat and shit, man. I can't stand. I mean, and I give him props for having a different art style in an age where everything is anime. But at the same time,
I do like the art style.
I'll give them props for their art, but no, this not. It's not good enough to me, you know. And apparently, our old timer, you know, opinions don't seem to mean anything because you know there doesn't seem to be enough of us, you know, like older, you know, gamers that say anything about what's being put out, you know, or actually try to weigh in on, you know, what genres we need to, you know, support more than, you know, others. It just seems to be all about the 12 and 14-year-olds.
Have you guys ever played this game? I absolutely love it and wanted a sequel to it. It's more of a brawler. And it was made by the creators who made Tekken and Soul Calibur, and it's called Urban Reign.
Oh, yeah, I have it. We play it all the time. Urban Reign. Yeah, we play it all the time.
Yeah, I wish they had made a sequel to that.
Me too.
Where they fixed, you know, some of the problems that were there in the first game.
It's the first one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Have you played it, Clarion Prime?
Yeah, I played it before.
We played it at my house. We've played it together. Yeah.
I dug it. I like you said, I definitely would wish they had made a sequel, revisited the idea or something. But it just needed some fine tuning because some of the big characters, they could just keep you on the ground all day. Like you couldn't do anything to counter them. Sometimes they'd get into that focus mode. And then they would just wail on you, and you couldn't do anything because like every move they did had armored, like, you know, armor properties, and they just never seem to stop sometimes. But yeah,
it's the weird thing about the game is that to me it didn't even need that because I honestly love that universe because it felt kind of like the Muay Thai was like a Thai guy, right? Like
like Tong Yoon, that was my favorite character in the game. Him and what's the girl's name? It was King's. Did you notice that was King? Jake. It was King without his mask.
Jake Hawkins King?
Yeah. It's the second King. King the second.
No, I didn't know that.
If you look at all his costumes, it's all King's clothes, but just no mask. From Tekken 2 and Tekken 4. Yeah, 4, you're right.
I just learned something.
Yeah, his girlfriend, what's her name, Vera Ross? She's the other dopest character to me in the game. She's such a monster. But yeah, I used to play the hell out of that game. I still do from time to time.
I just started replaying it. That's why I brought it up. I was like, you know what? Let me. And as it goes into playing the game by itself, like me, that's just. And I think I explained this. I don't know on a podcast, or maybe me and you were talking Strident. And I said one reason why I find fighting games to me the ultimate, like
experience almost,
or replay value. Is because unlike with like a Tomb Raider or even something like a Bioshock Infinite, all of those, you know, games. Once you play it one time, yes, maybe you want to do that on a second playthrough with a harder difficulty, but it's still basically the same experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just pump up their armor, give them extra health, or the bullets take more damage or something, right?
Yeah.
Or they have to release DLC to extend that. But to me, it seems like with a fighting game,
message.
Fighting community. They have 30 characters. They're so completely, you know,
programmed.
For the most part, sheepish. You know, completely different playing styles. Even when a new fighter comes out, it's like they don't even look at it. If it's not Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, I mean, it's cool that Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue have its fan base.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of it. There's like 2 tiers. There's not like this wide.
Two tier. Sorry. That's my little shout out to my homeboy Kenji. We used to play a lot of tournaments together, and we made fun of people who talk in fighting game speak. You know, my top tier, my 1, 2, 4, and my UCB and my UC. You know what I mean? Like the fuck they have. And I don't mean to cut you off and all that, you know what I mean? But like they have their own speech, and it's like every fighting game has a moves list, and the moves are clearly named, so we all know what move it is, and they have to come up with their own. because it's just too hard to say some of those the move names when they're in English. You know what I mean?
OTGO?
Huh?
Like, what is it? OTGO?
Yeah. It's like, really? Like, do you really have to do all that? Like, it's not... I don't know. To me, it's unnecessary.
What's that?
Oh, wait a minute. OTG?
OTG.
OTG, sorry.
On the ground.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, they come up with all these little abbreviations, and it's speak now. It's like techno speak.
They can't just say Oki, like how they do in Tekken.
Yeah, some people do. Some Tekken players do. But like, yeah, we noticed it, so we used to make fun of that when we'd be in the arcade playing. Like around the time when Tekken 4 came out, we were playing, and there was this group of guys, these Asian guys, and everything they said sounded like some technical speak that came out of one of these magazines or something. And so when the dude said, "Yeah, don't pick him. He's low tier. You need to pick him. He's top tier," we were like, "Top tier, top tier." It just was frustrating because we're just like, really? Why can't you just? The game it's already catering to us. Why do you have to make a whole new culture within the culture that exists?
Part of the fun is playing with a low tier character and winning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when right before I stopped playing Street Fighter 4, I played with Dan so much because somehow he translated so well in that game in comparison to how he was in the other games. I liked his stance, the fact that it was a straight up rip off of Ryo Sakazaki, and
the fighting.
the Art of Fighting stance, and like so many of his moves, man. It just, I don't know, he was fun to play as, whereas like a lot of the other characters weren't fun. There was no payoff, but whatever. Here's another question. What is, I don't know if everyone will be able to answer this one because it's very difficult. Favorite fighting game? And you could have two, but you got to be brief in why you have two. We'll start with Scott, Clarion Prime. Sorry. I'm telling everyone your real name, man.
Your identity's blown.
I know, right? Your identity has been compromised.
Roll my cover and now I got to disavow.
Favorite fighting game.
Favorite.
Be honest. I almost already know what you're gonna say.
Okay, Arcana Heart.
I have Arcana Heart 3.
You told me to be honest, damn it.
Mine is Sonic the Fighters. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's Virtual Fighter. It's Virtual Fighter for you, Strident.
The first Virtual Fighter. Yeah!
I done handcuff light.
I know, I done handcuff light.
God, all the voices in that game are annoying.
Time to run home to mama now. And that was freaking Sarah Bryant's voice with that that horrible cackle. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Clarion. I'm sorry.
Well, see, I could take yours very easily. Because that was my favorite Street Fighter.
Uh-huh.
I could give you the answer.
Which one?
I think Third Strike.
Okay.
Or I could give you the one you think I'm gonna say, and say Darkstalkers 3. Or for those of us in the know, Vampire Savior, the Lord of Vampire.
Uh-huh. You ain't special.
But yeah, that was the most fun one for me, actually.
Yeah, hey, if it was, it was.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, like I said, I was into the series pretty heavy before then. Mm-hmm. That one came out, had to get my friggin' Saturn and my little cart to convert that shit so I could play like the
Arcade Perfect version.
Exactly, it's like play the Japanese version when that came out. So Dreamcast. Did I say Saturn?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dreamcast. But again, that was the same thing. I played practice with that friggin' like a half hour, an hour every night for like weeks. Repeatedly on like ridiculous difficulties. Like I worked to get good at like a bunch of characters. Jada was my favorite because he could whoop ass and never move.
Yeah. With his hands in his pockets.
With his hands in his pockets and just like destroy you. I'm like, I like that. There's something about being Felicia and the faster characters, but there's something to be said about just being able to stand still.
Yeah.
And someone literally not being able to touch you.
Yeah, that's true.
So so that's one. And then, like I said, 1A would have to be Third Strike because that was honestly the best Street Fighter I've ever played.
Yes,
but I'll let you.
Hey, man. I agree. What about you, Ryosuke?
Oh God, me, man.
You want to go last?
Yeah, I'm gonna need some time.
Okay.
Put all the instruction books on a dartboard or something?
What are yours, Agent O? Your favorite fighting game?
I can't really say that I have a favorite one.
Yes, you do.
I think I played Tekken 3 probably the most out of any fighting game I've ever played.
Next to like Tekken 6. Remember how much we were playing Tekken 6?
But I mean, I never played Tekken 6 to the point where I mastered like damn near, or at least I was familiar enough with damn near every character in the game, like we did with Tekken 3.
That's true.
Like we used to just go down the gamut. Like Mokujin wasn't a character we picked because we were able to play with literally anyone in that game.
I used to pick him in Tekken Tag, the first Tekken Tag, because you could decide what style he was going to use. Remember when you press down the thing?
But yeah, I don't think I can't really decide.
It's got to be a Tekken because that's what you've played the most.
Yeah.
So it's Tekken 3.
It's probably if I did have to pick one, it would probably end up being Tekken 6.
Oh, okay. For me, I have a weird one. My favorite is I like Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. It's the best Street Fighter, but it was fun, but it has some things that you have to. You know how I talk about like the boss syndrome. That kind of knock it down sometimes for you just playing it by yourself, or even competitively sometimes if people play it with you. So it's still the best Street Fighter, I'll give it that, and I still love it. But the Capcom game I had the most fun with was X-Men vs. Street Fighter. I think I know that game inside and out. I've only lost one competitive match. I beat everyone in CCAD in that game. And people were pissed. They were saying I was cheating, and they're like, "How'd you do that?" I'm like, "I can teach you. It's not super difficult. It'll take some time, but I played the hell out of that game, and I learned every character, understood all the little things, which made it easy to play the other versus games. But I don't know. There was something about that game. The first time they put those two worlds, two different franchises together like that, and effectively, because they did that with SNK. I mean, what was the game called? King of Fighters. They had they had multiple franchises in that game. But X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and the first time you see Apocalypse pop up and his hand turns into the drill, and it's like 100 and something hits, and you're like, holy shit, what the fuck am I supposed to do? That game just, I don't know, something about it was just quality. And then, of course, it's Tekken, and I can't say which one, because we just play the hell out of Tekken, so much. From the first one, the first time I played the game, I played as Michelle, and then I played as Kazuya when he dropped his dad off the mountain. I'm like, I'm playing this game for the rest of my life. Because it just had so much more character than Virtua Fighter, where Virtua Fighter was cool. The characters always seemed like so MRDD or something. As soon as they spoke, you're like, wow, is that the same guy that I just won this match with that can pull off all this complex, Kempo or complex Chinese martial arts and stuff? It just didn't seem like... It seemed like two different teams worked on the game and the victories. It was just... I couldn't get into it like that. But Tekken. It's between Tekken and X-Men vs. Street Fighter. That game was just too fun.
Yeah.
What about you, sir?
Ball out yet, Ryosuke?
I would have to go kind of like... You guys kind of helped me, because I was like, okay, what game do I play the most versus... what I consider, even with all its flaws, because I play it probably at least twice a month, all the time. With even its flaws, I still love it, is Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah, that game's amazing. It's still good.
Just because of the roster, it's kind of, I have to kind of echo something Stryden was saying there, because I just love how they animate something like Silver Samurai. He just looks... crazy, and things like that, and having the Street Fighter universe and the Marvel universe, that's kind of cool. I always wanted them to do DC.
Me too.
Really, oh man, I wanted, and I'm still mad that nobody's done. Well, they did make a 2D fighting game. You guys remember that fighting
on the Super Nintendo?
Oh my god, it was on the Genesis too.
Yeah, I remember that.
The Justice League Task Force or whatever. Oh,
guess what? I have it.
I used to have it. I got rid of it. I was just like, man. And it was funny how, like, when you turn on the game, it's like Dark Side staring at you. He's like, we have the technology.
I'm a collector of those days. It's just like, I just gotta have it for a nostalgic value. Just like, see, you know. Like,
yeah.
But I put it in every once in a while and go, oh, wow.
I know. It's fucking horrible.
And the second one would be Samurai Showdown 2.
Yeah, that's a classic. That is a classic.
Believe it or not really any polygon games, although I like a lot of them.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays. It's just that I'm not as good as everybody else. You know, like, I used to be good at Tekken, but man, now everybody's just, you know, I just could not compete anymore. And I used to be really good at Soul Calibur 2 as well.
Soul Calibur was one of those weird games where the series just changed. Like, after Soul Edge or Soul Blade, whichever version it is you guys played, Soul Calibur came out on a Dreamcast, and then it went in a whole new direction.
Yeah, it did. I don't know what to say about it.
Yeah, I can't get into it. I was so into Soul Edge, and I was so into freaking... Soul Edge is still one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. The game had 3 fucking soundtracks. Mm-hmm. And it had all the weapons. Was it the Edge Master mode where you could earn your weapons, the ultimate weapons, and all that stuff? And
yeah, I
just,
like that. See, that's why I liked it. It was just like this ongoing thing.
It gave you so much, and then now they give you these modes that don't make sense. Like, really? So you could get fucking character art. Wow, because there's not this tool called the internet where I could just go online and look up, you know, the artwork for the game. Thank you, guys. And I don't know.
They're not charging you for it.
Yeah, I know. Well, they will when the next one comes out. Just wait.
Excited. Do you have a question? What fighting games that we don't like that are popular?
Yep, that's what I was about to ask. What's the...
Cool.
Go ahead. Hey, you can start.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, it lost its luster, man. I don't know what it is. I give them props for what they tried with this.
I give them props for making a coherent story.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's what I'll give them for the last one too.
I think Mortal Kombat 3 is like the only one that I was good at. But believe it or not Mortal Kombat 1 I was never good at, and then Mortal Kombat 2, not really. I got started, and then 3, and then after that I gave up. I really
I gave up after 3.
From its I know this is gonna sound weird from fighting game, but I like the world building they did and the lore and the movies or whatever. Well, the movie, I shouldn't say movies, but movie.
Yeah. I even liked the TV show. Remember the TV show? It was good.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. But yeah, unlike a lot of people, because I do get, you know, fighting against fans that talk to me and stuff like that, and they'll bring up Mortal Kombat, and I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about. They were like, but you love so many. I'm like, oh, Mortal Kombat's the only super uber popular game I have. Like, I don't have any interest in really, and I'm not that good at. It's just very weird for me. But I play just about everything else. But go ahead.
No, I have to admit though, when I saw it for the first time, I was like, holy crap! It had all this bass, like people get hit in the chest, and you hear this deep like. And then, like,
you could hear it from outside the arcade.
Man, and you're like, what is that? You know, or when like Goro grabbed you and he's like pounding on your chest, and it's the bass would be rocking the machine, and you can hear the quarters jiggling on the screen. Which I know so many people watching this are gonna be like, what? Quarters on the screen? Like, what are you talking about? But like
many moons ago,
I know, right? When I was but a young lad. For those of you who don't know, and you probably could look this up, but when you want to save your place, you know, in line, when you're watching, you know, someone play a arcade game, you put your quarter up on the screen. And the game always had such high bass and it was so loud that, like, it would rock and shake the cabinet and your quarters would be jumping around on the screen. And you'd always hear it as soon as you walk in. Oh! Or some weird scream or just banging or something. Yeah, you'd hear something. And it was always like, damn, I have to see what this is. Same thing with Killer Instinct. When Killer Instinct came out, you could be down the hallway from the arcade and you could hear Ultra, Ultra. You're like, what in the hell is that? And then when you see it, you're like, damn, that dude got jacked up. Like, but yeah, Mortal Kombat was one of those games. You're right. I liked it I played 1, I played 2, and I played 3, and then I liked the trilogy because the trilogy took all the elements from all 3 games and just put them in one game. But then after that, like 4 was fucking terrible. 5 was fucking every single one of the polygonal Mortal Kombats up until this 9th one, they were all terrible. Except for Shaolin Monks. I loved that game.
Oh yes, I have Shaolin Monks.
Yeah, that game was fun.
Or like a beat 'em up, which I also love too. Yeah. They're a cousin to fighting games, so I have a lot of beat 'em ups. So.
Yeah,
that's a fun co-op game.
Yeah, it was fun. But yeah, man, I couldn't get into any of the new ones. And shit, Agent O bought the new one, and I played it, I beat it, but I couldn't really get into it. I wasn't enjoying it. Like, Jax didn't play like Jax. And then, like, the characters I liked, they fucked them all up. But, yeah, I agree with you. Mortal Kombat has lost its luster. That's kind of why I haven't even tried to look at Injustice. But people have told me that there's things in Injustice that make it play different from Mortal Kombat that's worth checking out. So if I see it for like $10 maybe, or like $8, maybe I'll pick it up. But if not, then it's just gonna stay where it is, because I'm not impressed with it.
I'll just give you a little quick advice. Pick Superman.
I know, he's so powerful in that game.
That's good.
He should, yeah, that makes sense, but damn. Like, I was watching Angry Joe just get totally ashy raped by somebody online. I mean, 3/4 of his health was gone because the guy was doing this super long combo, and he would chain in the stage attacks with the combo, and I was just like, God damn. Like, that's fucked up, and there's no way I'm going to sit there and put the time in to learn how to do all that.
It's probably not that difficult either, because I know it's more, the engine's simpler than Mortal Kombat 9. But,
it is. I've played it, and I've had friends who, like I said, who go into tournaments, or just, you know, I kind of keep my pulse a little bit on the gaming community a little bit, or people who are really into it. And I won't bring his name up, but he's really good. He's been in some tournaments. He's out in Manhattan, actually. Mm-hmm. He's out there, and he's a young guy. He's like 23.
Yeah.
And we talk on Xbox a lot. And he told me he had to pick Superman because everybody was just doing this. I guess he gets like some super armor or something, and it is just so beast. And he hates Superman. He wants to use the characters that he uses. Yeah. But he's like, no, Rasuke, I can't use the 3 characters that I like.
See, but that's what I'm saying, man. Like, think about us back in the day. We would have figured out a way to fight all of those people picking the one strongest character. We'd find someone either faster or moderately powered, and you figure out how to shut down those moves, you know? I've won fucking Marvel vs. Capcom 2 tournaments with freaking, what's the girl's name? Sansan, Sakura, and Cammy. You know what I mean? Like, they're easily some of the weakest people in the game, along with, like, Mega Man and Roll. And I can win tournaments with them, too. I have. It's not impossible. It's just people don't want to use them because they want to use the top-tier characters because it makes them look more hardcore or something. I don't know.
Path of least resistance.
Yeah, it's easiest.
Mm-hmm. It's easiest. You're right. What about you, Scott? What's your favorite... favorite fighting game?
You compromised him again.
I compromised you again. Sorry, Prime. What's your...
Torching the computer. In transmission.
What's your least favorite, the favorite fighting game you want to hate, or least favorite fighting game?
I think you probably already know that, too.
Uh-oh.
You know, it's the Gears of Street Fighter.
I was gonna say Street Fighter
4, yeah, man. and go ahead, break down what it is. Break down what it is that makes it so bad.
Because you can speak more to the technical aspect of the things that have been added to the gameplay that have just made it less of a fighting game.
Yeah, yeah.
I just remember loading this thing up, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with Ryu?
Like busting out of his gi and shit.
Like M10, I get it. It's all ripped up, but it wasn't ripped because, like, you know, he'd been like eating roid shakes for like 15 years. It's like, so I'm looking, I get it. Like, they want to change the art style. That's cool. They changed it from 2 to 3, and you know, whatever. I tried to stay with him, but then it just like continued like on down the line. I'm like, okay, since Guile is bigger than both of them, then Guile looked like, you know, he'd freaking fall over if you pushed him.
And the characters look like they would burst if you pricked them with a pin.
Yeah, man, they're just bubbly and gross looking,
and Chun-Li had man hands.
All the women have man hands.
It's so bad to look at, and then playing it was not anywhere near as fun as I'd hoped. It was nowhere near as, I don't want to say in depth, because like I said, they did add some things to the gameplay.
Yeah, but no, you have to admit that focus counter, aka the EX unblockable, is bullshit. You know, people were like, "Oh, it's so new, it's cool, it's blah blah." No, it came from Street Fighter EX. Go look it up. It's the same shit.
I felt like it was the poor man's parry.
It is a poor man's parry because a lot of people couldn't master the parry. Like till this day, shit, I haven't mastered it, but I can do it for the most part. At least like 9 out of 10 times. I will fuck up eventually, but 9, you know.
Can I plug something?
Yeah, jump in.
Okay. I don't know if I think you've seen it, STRYDENT, but Agent O and Clarion Prime, haha. not that other name. That's a code name.
Yeah, I know, right?
I did a video about Street Fighter 5.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
free to pay.
Yep.
You got to check that out.
Sounds great.
All right, I'm gonna check that out.
This shit was funny, man. It was hilarious.
And it's video, so you get to see it in the flesh, of course. But yeah, check that out. And it's exactly some of the things you're talking about there. Prime. So I think you'll enjoy it because, like, I talk about the gi. Oh, I'll just let you guys.
Yeah, it's just funny though, man. It is pretty damn funny.
Dude, I had to do that, right? Like, I told you straight it. Like, when I do those, man, those are so hard.
You gotta not laugh.
Yeah. What was the other one I did? Oh, it was
Batman. Batman is the greatest superhero ever. I finally realized Batman is the greatest of all superheroes. Then when he explains why, this shit is hilarious. Freaking, what were they called? The Ultimate Essentials?
No. Have you seen it, Clarion Prime or Agent O?
No, not yet.
No, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Okay, I'm serious the whole time. I don't blink. I don't giggle. Right, STRYDENT? Like,
Nah. It's perfect delivery.
Yes, it's completely serious. And I said why I understand why Batman is the ultimate superhero and why he's so fantastic. And I said that he does have some powers that we don't realize. I did research and I looked up at DC and I said he got this power from this group called the Right of Writors. And I have text come out in the video that says R-I-T and then O-R, like they're alien, like writors, you know. These writors, these beings gave him incredible power. They gave him the eternity intangibles.
There you go. Oh my God! Wait till you see. You got to see the rest and how it all. Yeah, it works.
So I go through the eternity intangibles and what they give Batman, and I'm like completely serious through the whole thing. And I think I caught one dude. He goes, "Were you?"
Yeah, they did. His delivery was good. So you kind of, because at first when you did the Street Fighter V one, I had no idea. I thought you were serious. And I was like, for real? Because I actually was like about to look it up. But then I listened a little bit longer. I was like, oh, come on. Like, you totally got me. Let me see. Yeah, because we could go on forever about Street Fighter 4. And, man.
That's the new game that I hate. The game that I probably just do not follow. And it's not because I hate it. It's just that I'm not good at it. I was never, you know what I mean? I'm engine... I'll say this: I'm not good at games with a block button.
I don't like block buttons either. And I hear people try to tell you that it's better if there's a block button. No, because the response time is less. And realistically, you'll always have a block button because you have to hit buttons to do anything that you do in the game. So even holding back is a block button, but it's activated the reverse of their moves. You know, when someone moves, your character blocks as long as you're holding back. And, you know how it works. Yeah. So, yeah, I never agreed with that. Block buttons suck. That's one thing I always hated about Virtua Fighter. That's why Tekken just was like, whoop, amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
The only reason why you would have a block button is if you could move and defend at the same time, which no fighting game has ever let you do.
Yeah.
Unless you count air blocking.
That's true. And I don't know if you can block and move at the same time with... you always have your feet planted, because, yeah, Soul Calibur's like that, too.
Yeah.
I will say though, I was able to adapt quite nicely with the block button in the Dead or Alive games.
Really?
I don't know
never
why.
get into those games.
I don't know why. I mean, I only really played up to Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore because I bought it for the PlayStation 2.
God,
and that's the one I played the
hell
most.
out of that game.
Yeah, and for some reason I was able to adapt, but I can't really adapt that well with other games that utilize a block button.
The funny Dead or Alive, man, there's a series that no one talks about when they bring up Tekken and Virtua Fighter, and if they do, you automatically just get discounted because of the boobies, the bouncing boobies in the game. It's like, don't bring up that fucking game because you're talking about it because you like the titties, and I like boobs and stuff too, but that game does not count.
Yeah, I mean, if they had balanced, at least from hardcore, if they had balanced the amount of damage the counters did, because I mean, you could completely get your ass handed to you, do
By like
two
one or two
counters,
counters, yeah.
and completely change the tide of the game. And
And it would be counters that the move itself wasn't something that's lethal.
yeah.
You know, it'd be like, they just threw you to the floor and you lose half your energy.
Yeah, or I mean, there would be certain characters that, like Bayman.
Oh, Lord.
Or,
Bayman or Hayate.
Yeah, where they would counter you and they would break some shit. Like, that I could understand why half your health is gone, because the guy just fucking broke your arm.
Well, not all the Hayates were like. The Hayates were like, he'd chop you in the back of your neck and you'd just be dead.
Yeah, I'm talking about like Bayman and the other guy,
Leon,
yeah. Like, they had counters that they'd catch your arm or your leg and they would fold you the fuck up.
Don't stand behind my back.
Yeah, they would fold you the fuck up, and I could understand why those characters, if their counters did that much damage, I'd understand it.
Yeah,
and if
but theirs didn't.
Yeah,
that was the fucked up thing. It was always the ninjas. All the ninjas did like ignorant damage. Fucking Ayane, whatever she did, ridiculous damage. And
she's Japanese, of course.
Of course, yeah, of course.
And she's got the pink hair. Come on.
We've all seen Attack on Titan, right? When we find out that she's Japanese and she's just so beast, right?
Like, at everything.
This is European, but man, she's just beast because she's Japanese. Just natural skill, man.
Exactly.
She's flawed though, but that's another story for another day. That whole series is flawed, but yeah.
But
I know what you're saying.
Stopped watching a long time ago.
Yeah, me too. I was excited, and then they killed it, and I'm like, okay, bye.
I quit after episode 12, and then when it showed up on Netflix, I finished it. But then after you explained to me, STRYDENT, like what happens, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch another episode again.
Yeah. But let me see. I got to think of one that I hate. I hate Street Fighter 4. I won't say I hate Mortal Kombat, but I don't like where it's gone. Maybe Dead or Alive. I think I've hated it. Even when we were playing it back in the day, I hated it. I actually enjoyed the version that was in the arcade of Dead or Alive 2. That looked like Virtua Fighter 2. It kind of had the explosive ring outs and stuff. Do you remember that? There was a different version of Dead or Alive in the arcades. Huh? Yeah, there was a different version in the arcades, and that one was more fun for me for some reason. The fact that you had the ring outs and you had the destructible arenas way before anyone else had them, and it wasn't like the weird. You know how in Dead or Alive 2 there were a lot of, actually in all of them, there's a lot of uneven playing fields that you're fighting on, where player 1 will be up on the hill and player 2 will be like down somewhere else, and it's like, how did you think that this works? And the moves are supposed to still connect as if you're on an even playing field, which doesn't make sense. That, I didn't like the emphasis on the boobs over the actual game itself.
Quick question, was Dead or Alive before Tekken 1?
No, hell no. It was like way after, it was after Tekken 3. Tekken, it was about the time that Tekken 3 came out was when Dead or Alive.
Because I remember a Dead or Alive that was like really pixelated on PlayStation 1, I remember.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the very first one.
So it came after Tekken 1.
Yeah, it came after Tekken 1, came after Tekken 2. It definitely came after Virtua Fighter 2 because it was using Virtua Fighter's hardware.
Well, okay, that explains. I never liked Dead or Alive so much because most people think hate is worse than, as far as dislike, but really it's ignoring, like, no attention whatsoever. Like, the things that you hate, you can actually get passionate about. You actually even know something about it. But like Dead or Alive just seemed like it was just so bland to me.
It was
like,
fan service. That's all it was.
I did love Zack though. He's my favorite character in that game.
Well, he was cool.
Zack Tendayo. I love that guy. I love this play style because you could actually change up like your high and low attacks easier than I could with other characters, and his personality just always shine through in the game.
Well, in the ones you play,
it's as far as up to 2 as to Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore. Yeah, his personality always shine through.
Yeah. After that, though, he got weird, and I don't know what weirder than he already was in the game. I don't know, the game just seemed really bland and vapid. Like, everything, it's all about effects and all about, like, flashy shit to catch your attention, and, like...
Yeah, and the story turned to, like, about Hayate and the ninjas and stuff.
Yeah, once Ninja Gaiden Black came out, it was a wrap. It was like, yep, they're gonna just spend all their time making him their Ryu, and it just kind of sucked.
You know what game I like over that? And that's, they made 1 and 2. Oh, I gotta get number 2 because my 2 is destroyed or something like that. Bushido Blade.
Yeah, that was a good game. Man, there was a point where I got tired of winning matches from lying on the floor with like one leg or something because I was like, man, this doesn't look nice. I like when it's a little flashier because I was like, man.
How was the second one? Because wasn't that just an Xbox exclusive?
I don't remember.
There was a new one. There was a newer Bushido Blade.
Probably.
But I think it was an Xbox. It was on the original It was on the first Xbox, and it was only exclusive, so I never played it, but I wanted to.
I can't remember.
It's definitely much more flashier and much more, crazier than the first one. So.
Yeah.
But I actually had more fun with Bushido Blade 2 than Dead or Alive. I know that seems weird.
No, it doesn't. Because we're with you on Dead or Alive, man. Dead or Alive is kind of just meh. And it's weird because it's always the same type of people that always talk about Dead or Alive. Like, yeah, man, it was awesome. She has blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was weird that they made Zack a kickboxer, and then you have Bruce Irwin, from Tekken, and I was just like, dude, what?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really? You can't even, change Zack up to be different?
I know, have him do like kung fu or something like that. But we've been over this one.
Yeah.
You know why?
Yeah.
What about?
At least he wasn't a wrestler or something. Like they always make
black people wrestlers,
like the big brawler or some
boxers.
shit, or
yeah,
they
boxers.
have a sports themed fighting style.
Oh my god, I'm so glad they got rid of that dude in King of Fighters.
Oh yeah, think about the SNK, right? Yeah, they had
God, they had Mickey, they had Heavy D, Mickey Glauber, and Brian Battler.
Brian Battler, yes.
Oh, man, I hated them. Team USA, they were horrible. But Heavy D had some cool moves. He was definitely a cool boxer.
Yeah.
But
wait, was he the one with the chick, with the wife that also boxed?
No, Seth was the spy.
Yeah, that's his name.
But and he did all counters, and his wife was the boxer. And that's funny, interracial relationship. Woot woot.
I know you'll probably never see that again.
SNK Polygon games, I think they're called Maximum Impact.
Oh Lord,
and that's all it uses Seth and his wife. I pretty much just
I can't stand those games.
Everybody with him just cause,
I can't stand those games, man. Like for some reason, Maximum Impact, like SNK started their games lost interest to me once Falcon started designing their characters, and some of the games still play well, but his character designs are just so like over the top flamboyant. I mean, I don't know if he's gay or not, so maybe that might have something to do with it, or maybe he's just into the look. But he puts the look on everybody, so it's like, come on, we get some variety, like I want variety, and then the moves sometimes don't match the characters, like
it's not a great fighting series, that's like you have to. That's what I'm saying. One of my guilty pleasures. I own like 3 of them. But I actually have more fun with them than I do some of the 2D ones. That the last one that came out for King of Fighters 13, that was all right, but I went back and played the Polygon versions, and there's things like I can sidestep, I can hit on the ground like Tekken. The supers are better in a way.
Yeah.
But I actually had more fun playing those Maximum Impact games than Dead or Alive. I know I'd get a lot of hate for that.
No.
What are you talking about?
I used to play them. I played the first Maximum Impact quite a bit.
Yeah. The last one, which probably has the best, as far as like they fixed all the problems with 1 and 2. So.
What about What didn't they release King of Fighters 13 twice?
Yeah.
So which version did you play? Because remember the first version didn't have the it didn't have a boss.
I don't think it had all the characters.
Yeah,
either.
some of the teams were incomplete.
I first version, and I thought it was bullshit.
It was.
Second version, and people were trying to like, oh, Rasuke, now you can really, get into. No.
No, I want the second version because that was what I saw was Street Fighter 4 was getting all the props. And initially, when people heard they were going to make a Street Fighter 4, everyone assumed it was going to be another 2D fighting game with super smooth animation and like camera rotation and all that shit. And that's not what we got. So SNK obviously went that way and they rotoscoped polygonal animation. And it took longer. But then when Street Fighter 4 started getting all the props, they were like, damn, we got to hurry up and put our shit out there. And they put an unfinished game out there, like so many other companies do these days. So, that's why I was happy to play it, but then when I'm playing it and I see like like six or five teams of 3, and then there were like 2 or 3 teams of 2, and I'm like, wait up, is it supposed to always be like even numbers except for the bosses? Or I'm sorry, odd numbers except for the bosses. It's supposed to be 3-on-3 combat, full teams. They already existed. They should have just, taken the extra time, because that's what they ended up doing. When they made the second one, they took the extra time to just put the guys that weren't in there. Like fucking Joe Higashi wasn't in the first game. I'm like, are you kidding me? How do you not have Joe Higashi on the Fatal Fury team?
Yeah, that's my favorite character, so I was very upset.
Yeah, I don't know. That was them being too greedy, trying to make that money real quick, They
were thinking about, for Capcom, remember Yoshiri Ono wanted to make I think it was going to be polygon version of Darkstalkers,
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, Prime, how would you feel about that? A polygon version with Yoshiri Ono doing your beloved Darkstalkers series.
Oh.
Now, when I first heard about that, what was it? There was
You cried. Admit it.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I was pretty happy, but you know me, Strident. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't have to wait that long.
Yep, because as soon as Yoshinori Ono's voice or name came up, it's like, it's doomed.
It wasn't even that. It was, okay, well, like, we're going to, I've been pitching it, and we're going to try to work on, bringing Darkstalkers, whatever, 3D into the next generation consoles, whatever. If the Darkstalkers Resurrection Collection sells well.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And that's when my head hit the desk, and I'm like, oh, well, so much for that.
I could buy a 3D if they did it the way that new Guilty Gear game was going to come out. Where
But they won't. That's the problem. You got to think about it. Capcom has become super cheap, and they're not even looking at how they used to do stuff. Matter of fact, the guys who made that shit possible don't work for Capcom anymore. They're all spread out all over the game industry, so now they can't get the quality of game. It's impossible for them to get the quality of game that they used to make with the team they have right now.
Yeah.
That's why Dimps has been making Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
So they're kind of doing a poor man's imitation of all the shit they used to do with all the other Street Fighter games. I don't know.
Yeah, the guy running Dimps used to work on Street Fighter.
It's sad.
Long story short, it would have been cool. But I knew about 5 minutes after I heard it, it was never going to happen.
How much did that Darkstalkers collection sell? Does anybody know?
I don't know. I didn't look for it.
It came out $15, and it didn't hit sales projections. The funny thing about Capcom's sales projection is nothing they've made in the past, 6-8 years, not called Street Fighter, has hit sales projections.
Yeah, I know.
So you got to figure out where the problem is. Either it's us, or it's you.
Or it's them, yep.
Well, I mean, Street Fighter 4 had to have hit sales projections.
No, it did. He said nothing besides Street Fighter.
Okay.
What about, here's something. Favorite underrated fighting game? Or did you get to the ones you hate?
I mean, I hate Street Fighter 4. I mean, I bought it, traded it back, and then I saw it was like $20 at GameStop, and it was still relatively new, which told me how many people returned the game or traded it in. So I was like, let me give the game one more chance. So I bought it again for $20. I think I still have it, but I don't ever play it.
Yeah, you tried to give it to me, and
I did.
I was like, nope. Like, nope.
I was gonna say, I told you.
I wash my hands of you. I wash my hands.
The only reason why I didn't sell it back was because I bought it brand new for $20. So I'm like,
yeah, you won't get anything.
All right, I don't have a problem eating that. But yeah, it's quite dusty.
Yeah, I just don't like the game. Yeah. I don't like the presentation. I don't like the way they designed the characters.
I can't wait for you to see my video.
You know, and the funny thing too is that, like, initially when it came out, like, I pre-ordered Street Fighter 4 maybe a year and some change before it came out, because when I was working for GameStop, I was looking periodically in our system for when the pre-orders for the game would show up. That lets us know we're going to actually get it. And, like, it was like a year and a half maybe before it came out that it showed up. I pre-ordered it on the spot and took it back the week it came out. I was like, no. And I was so amped about what I saw. When I saw, because I'm a Guile player. That's like my #1 character. And I saw Guile do Charlie's flash kick after his own in his super. I was like, holy shit. They actually made him learn something? Because, you know, Guile's had 2 moves for, like, what, 20 years? Like, like, I'm like, okay. Except for EX, where the guys who used to work on Street Fighter were like, let's give him more attacks. He was a beast in that game. Anyway. I know, opening them with... But yeah, like, I was so amped about that. Just that. And I didn't pay too much attention to, like, some of the other stuff. But the fact that that little trailer they showed us was so good, and, you know, I thought they were really going to bring some innovation, and then you play the game and it's like, nope, not at all. It's extremely watered down, and it's like, how could you fucking... How does that make sense? That just, it doesn't make sense to me. So, yeah, I had to take it back. So, yeah, I'm right there with all of you guys on that one. But, underrated fighting game. Favorite underrated fighting game. I'll start off. Mine is Guys. God Bless the Ring. Have you ever played that game?
Yes.
Guys was it was one of those games where, like, the first time you play it, you're going to get your ass beat. And you'll be like, what the fuck just happened? Because it's hard to get used to with all the 3-dimensional movement and all that. But then once you figure it out, and you figure out, like, how to kind of fine-tune your movements and how, you know, to counter. That game had the most complex grapple counter system I've ever seen in a game, next to maybe Tobal #1. And, people, like, don't understand how that works. Tekken tries to do it because you have a lot of long strings of animated counters for ground moves, you know what I mean? Like getting grappled. But this game, man, it was like going from, you know, armbar to figure 4, and from figure 4 to German suplex, and from German suplex to a full sprawl, and, like, it was ridiculous, man. I'm like, you just keep chaining these moves, and if you were fast enough, you could keep countering the moves, and everyone could do it. It's just the grapplers had the more damaging counters. They did different, you know, slams or something like that, whereas the little people, the smaller people, would do like grapples, like one grapple to the next, not a slam. But yeah, that game was ridiculous. I had the PlayStation version. What else did it come out for? I know it came out in the arcade, didn't it?
It did?
Oh yeah, Guys was in the arcade.
I'm pretty sure it was in the arcade, but in the arcade it only had the first characters that you see on the select screen. It didn't have all the Final Fantasy people.
Oh yeah.
No.
And it didn't have Claire and Koji. I used to play as Claire, and then I learned how to play as Koji, who was like one of the first, like, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in a fighting game, period.
Dude named Prince Nazim?
Yeah, Nazim, he was the kickboxer, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game was sick, and I liked how they poked fun at all the existing games where Godhand's real name was Ken Mishima, and he was wearing the Tekken gloves and shit. Like, I don't know, the game was fun. It was so much fun.
I have that one too.
You should, you better. Oh, let me see, who else? Who wants to go next?
Let's see. Man, this is hard.
Hey, here's another one, probably Bloody Roar.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Bloody Roar series, but
Yeah.
it seems like people either never played it or they fucking hate it for some reason.
Yeah.
Like everybody I've ever ran into, whenever
Really?
Bloody Roar is mentioned.
Well, that's probably because they played the later Bloody Roars. If they played 1, 2, and 3, you see the evolution of the game. 3 stands alone. It's the best in the series, period.
Yeah.
Everything about it is just top notch. The music is better. The graphics are better. The designs for the characters are better. The voice acting is better, even though it's still bad.
Yeah.
The fact that they had supers in beast mode and then supers from human mode to turn into your beast mode were ridiculous, man. That game was just, that definitely is an underrated gem. Like, people don't understand the complexity of the shit you could pull off in that game, and it's anything from characters who boxed had alternate ways to dip a move at close range, because like Hugo had like 3 ways to dip an attack besides the standard. You know, it was like the equivalent of a parry in Street Fighter 3, where you time your block with the attack and they would just move out the way. He had 3 different versions of that were just special moves on their own, kind of like Steve Fox. And then he still had the dip that everyone else had. So if you were really good, you could throw in like a couple of his special move dips that were completely different and specific to boxing. And then you could still dip the other stuff with the fancy anime style dip that they had. I don't know, that game was on another level. And like watching people that fought with kicks, like Shion, if you were playing as like Gato or Sheena or what's the dude's name again? The main character again? I just said it. Yugo. If you're playing as Yugo, you're dipping their kicks, and these kicks that they do in these games are ridiculous because the game is hand animated. It's not motion captured. So the extensions on the kicks are like all inhuman and shit, and like it just looked so good when you go at it with someone who knows what they're doing and you know what you're doing. I don't know. You had the potential for some like really awesome games, or awesome matchups. I mean, you guys still thinking about underrated ones?
Wow. Underrated by the masses, or underrated just to our own personal? In general,
like just in general, like games that, like Evo doesn't play them. They don't play them at Evo. They didn't get very good ratings when they came out because maybe they didn't have, all the stereotypical things that we're used
mass
to.
Appeal.
Yeah, because like Bloody Roar, like it came out and the game was well done. It didn't have a whole bunch of bugs. It actually had a unique engine, but it somehow didn't hit everybody. You know what I mean? Like people just overlooked it.
Yeah, that's when
Urguys was the same way. People were like, oh, it's just, it's a bootleg, blah blah blah, and no one ever imitated that engine except the Bouncer. And that was what that game was a test for.
The Bouncer, I bought that day one.
Yeah. Yeah, the Bouncer was a good game. I mean, it had its flaws with their ragdoll system. That shit pissed me off.
Yeah, you try to do a giant swing with
you hit the wall,
and you'd either hit your other team players or you'd hit the wall and just completely fall out of it.
I hated that shit. That made me so mad. But yeah, that was a fun game.
Yeah, I love the graphics of that game.
Yeah. It had a nice style. Nice style.
I know it's funny how the dude from Kingdom Hearts looks like.
Xion.
Yeah.
What's with that name?
I don't know.
Everybody wants to have a character named Xion. and they don't spell it Xion like in Bloody Roar. They all spell it Scion like the car company or like the word. But I'm trying to think of other ones. Rival Schools.
I was going to say that's
mine.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, you can take that.
Go ahead. Speak on it, brother. Speak on it.
I was going to say, because, I mentioned before on one of the last videos, I'm like, I friggin' went total otaku for that one, too. I had my modded PlayStation, so I got the Japanese version of that. I'm playing through the campaign mode, which all that you do is lets you create a character in the end, which I never used because that was never the point.
Exactly.
I literally go through the mode, and me and a friend of mine would sit there and we'd try to figure out and remember what they asked us to do during because you would do these examinations, which is basically just teaching you how to do the moves. So the first session we're trying to do fireballs and spin kicks and kick the professor in the face, and it's like, dude, why don't we try walking forward?
Because that's what he asked you to do.
The first one was walk forward. It's like, yes. And then the next one, I'm willing to bet it's walk backwards. Yes.
Oh, man. That's that ADD gaming right there, where it's like, I can do all these things, but not what they asked you to do.
No, we'll get there.
I have complete freedom.
Playing that, obviously, it was Capcom bringing out some older tropes as far as like characters they had. Yeah.
Fucking Hideo. Hideo was the bomb. Hideo was fucking dope.
Hideo was friggin' amazing.
Him and Kyoko, that was my team, period. Like, that's all I ever used in that game. Yeah, man.
Like, I don't know, I dug Batsu because he was, like, different enough from, like, I mean, obviously he's still supposed to be Ryu. Like,
he was Ryu.
he was fun to play. Like, most of the other characters I'm trying to think of. Most of, like, the outsiders, I tried to use them, too. Friggin' Akira, with or without helmet. With helmet was fucking badass.
I liked her brother, Hyo.
Daigo.
No, Daigo. I used to use Daigo.
I keep forgetting his name because obviously I associate that with tournament scene.
I know, right? Yeah, I used to use Daigo. He was a beast.
I'm like, this dude doesn't have a fireball. Like, he doesn't need one.
Exactly.
Because he has mastered whoop your ass style.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He could beat you with his hands folded.
Basically. I'm like, yeah, that dude was friggin' amazing. I used to like playing as him.
Oh, Hayate. That was my other dude. The gym teacher? Oh my god. We used to always laugh at it with the wooden sword. Because he looked like our gym teacher. Didn't he look like Mr. Acosta, remember? Mm-hmm. Oh man. Yeah, that game was awesome. I know some people still play it. I hear people talk about it, but it didn't get the kind of like reception that, you know, the billion different Street Fighter related games got. And it deserved it. Project Justice, that shit came out and disappeared. Matter of fact, I don't think it ever was released in the US.
Yeah,
it did. Dreamcast.
No, I thought it was released because the only version I ever saw was the Japanese version, and it was called Project Justice. It should have been, if it was the American version, it would have been called Rival Schools 2.
Project Justice, Rival Schools 2.
Oh.
Yeah, it was what's in it, because I remember they carried it at Blockbuster when I was working there.
Okay.
And I have a video on my best fighting games and my best beat 'em ups, and on my best fighting games, I have Project Justice there, but I showed the American...
the cover?
The American cover, yeah, because I have the Japanese one.
Yeah, I only ever played the Japanese one.
Yeah, that would... I'll let you have that one.
Sorry, take it from me. I did just have to jump on that. I'm like, no. Dibs.
What about you, man? Ryasuke, you gotta have one.
That was one. Let's see. I would say. Oh God, this is hard.
Yeah, no. Still trying to think of one.
Okay, I'll go with. I wish the series would have continued, but I understand why they separated. Nobody really talks about it, but I really enjoyed the SNK versus Capcom series.
Yeah, those were good.
Mm-hmm.
I like those two. You know, they were getting better. That's they had Chaos version, which is different than the ratio system, which I absolutely hated. I hate the ratio system. Like,
really?
Because Akuma's Beast, you only can choose him, but if you're Cammy, you could choose 3 other characters. I was like,
well, he was the boss. No, if you picked the regular Akuma, you could give him whatever amount of points you wanted. But if you picked Shin Akuma, you couldn't pick anybody else.
Well, I thought that was in 2 when they got rid of the ratio system.
2 still had it because like I beat the the way I would practice with that game is pick one character and put him as a 4 and play the survival mode. And if you do that, then you get maximum points that you could just make when you make your own groove. You could have as many points and put everything if you wanted into your groove. Yeah. They give you freedom for it. So like I would play as Bison and just go through it because Bison was a fucking monster in that game.
Yeah. So I picked that because I could be, a character. I could be like Joe Higashi and Guile.
Yeah.
Where's that now? Like, I would love to see that, you know what I mean?
Oh, they tried that shit and they failed so bad.
Yeah.
Tekken Cross Street Fighter, everybody. Oh, yeah.
That's Tekken.
I wish they had made Tekken Cross Street Fighter instead of Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Yeah, I know.
I told you, man. It was like he straight tricked Ono. Like, he's like, oh, fine, yeah, you go ahead. You make the game first, and then we'll make it.
Yeah, And then he showed that, like, the fact that he piqued everyone's interest with the little graphic. Like, somebody, hey, you model Ryu's head for them real quick. Just give him a taste. And everybody was like, oh my God, that looks amazing. And then, except for the idiots that were like, why does his gi look like that?
Because
it's
real
not his real gi.
Yeah.
It was Paul Phoenix's gi. It's like, there was just a placeholder, homie. But, yeah,
no, it's not supposed to look like that. I know, it's not right.
I know, right? Let's focus on the point, you know what I mean? And that's how all these gamers do these days. They miss the damn point. But yeah, you're right. He did trick Ono, because I said it from day one, and it bombed. It's weird, though, that it still sold more than, didn't it sell more than Tekken Tag 2?
Yeah. Which
makes no sense, because Tekken Tag 2 was a better game.
Tekken Tag 2 was a better game than whatever variation of Street Fighter 4, any variation of Street Fighter 4. Like, it looked better, it played better. You got a fucking full game, and with no DLC, no unnecessary DLC. You know, instead of paying for the costumes, you could just unlock the costumes, and you could customize your character however you wanted, and blah blah blah, and you didn't have to pay for it. And yeah, I mean, and you didn't have to wait on new characters to come in.
See, that was a missed opportunity right there. What, unlock characters because you beat the game? No.
I mean, the characters they did release were free.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know. It they made that game with the intention to satisfy their consumers, whereas Capcom was all about getting in your pockets, and people still let them get in their pockets.
Satisfy their shareholders.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is...
Yeah, that's the game that I got banned from YouTube from. Even though I still own the game, and I still like the game, but I only like it from a fanboy point of view. Like, I do not take the game seriously. I do like the art style.
What?
But yes, I own Street Fighter X Tekken, and that's the game I got banned from YouTube because I'm one of the people who knew somebody that put up, we found all the stuff, the extra characters on the disc.
Yeah.
I posted it up like, look, here's some of the costumes, here's Elena, here's, you know what I mean, and they were like, oh, Capcom is sent a cease and desist, and they pulled it, and all this other stuff, and
that's crazy.
I checked recently, and I'm still in the negative with YouTube, like,
wow, from that?
Yeah, and that was like, what, a year ago? That was like, what,
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
It was about 2 years ago.
You don't want people to find it, hide it better.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like freaking
don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah,
don't do it at all.
That code from the game, they buried it. I'm like, you're releasing this game on PC, right? You realize somebody's gonna find that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know that shit happened with Killer Instinct, the new one about always being online, and they had it in the tournament, and sure enough, the game fucked up because it was not connected online in the middle of the fucking tournament.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Let's talk about that.
And people are going to say it's still an awesome, amazing game. Hey, shit, I want to talk about that too. That's one of the weirdest things I've noticed with that game is that people are real. My opinion of the game kind of changed. At first, I didn't like what I saw. Then the more I look at it, I understand what the designers are doing as far as the characters go. As far as the making you pay for every character, that's bullshit. You know?
Well, like I looked it up. It's you can pay. You can play the game for free, and I guess you can use in-game money to unlock the characters. But then there's like you can pay either the $40 package, which gives you pretty much everything, including the 2 characters they haven't released yet, or you could pay I think it's like $20, and you just get the characters themselves.
Okay.
Just unlock the characters. But my question is,
why not just release the $40?
Why not just do the full-on game? Everything's finished. Put it out there for $40 or $60. You know, since it's a straight download game, I guess put it out for $40. Whoever buys it, buys it. I don't see how they save any money in doing a free-to-play game in this manner, because it's not like you don't have a whole lot of options for microtransactions.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get your money that way.
Final round. $2 to play the final round.
Yeah, like I don't know what the business model is for this that they were so scared people weren't gonna buy into this game that they had to put it out for free first. I mean, that's what a fucking demo was for.
Exactly.
And that was my issue with that. It's like you're going to package it with one character. What if people don't like that one character?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, you basically gave people a glorified demo that's not on disc, so they can't hack the disc and see that you had all this stuff already on there, like they did with Street Fighter X Tekken, and you basically gave it to them a free demo, which demos are free usually, and you just gave them a full game with not everything unlocked yet. Just give people a full game. Just finish the shit up and sell it. And if people buy it, they buy it. If they don't, they don't. I mean, the fighting game community fucking jumped on it hook, line, and sinker before the game ever came out. Anyways, you should have just did a full game.
I agree.
These new geeks and these new gamers, you know what I mean? It's like in this brave new world of technological greatness, we are getting less, and I love it that we get actually less than more, because in the past we got more.
Dude, this, not to cut you off, Ryosuke, but the saddest thing is, it's like one of the reasons why I guess the console gaming model has adopted that whole free to play microtransactions. You know why? I've heard more than one developer say, well, people play games on mobile devices and iOS, and they're used to microtransactions. So we just decided we'd do it too.
So there's no need. It's just one of those things.
And you've got a lot of like fanboys and gamers saying that free to play is going to be the future of gaming. So everyone else is jumping on the bandwagon just because other people are saying it, not based on how they feel about it themselves. So now I kept saying that to people, like, if you guys keep saying this, they're gonna listen to you guys, and they're gonna start making all this shit free to play. And even though a lot of you don't care for it, it's gonna be the standard, and that's exactly what's happening.
And it doesn't apply to every game. It shouldn't apply to every style of game. Like if you were playing like fucking World of Warcraft or some shit, or Diablo, because those games have that shit in there already. Yeah, okay, pay for the fancy shit, to make the really ridiculously high level shit. Yeah, pay for it. Okay, fine, that's cool. But the game lasts forever. You're gonna be playing forever. It's such a long ass game. You know what I mean? So fine, pay to get access to this portion of the map. Fine, whatever. Either in-game money or microtransaction. But in a fighting game, where the fighting game rests on the strength of its characters, you're paying for the characters before you even get a chance to try them out? The fuck kind of ignorance is that? And all of these fanboys are like, it's amazing, it's amazing. I agree. Effects-wise, sound-wise, even some of the designs are pretty damn good for a reboot of an older, series, or a continuation of an older series. It's a little better, well, it's a lot better done than Mortal Kombat was. It seemed like they were paying a little bit more attention in some of the Mortal Kombat designs. But there are some characters that I'm still like, how does this reflect the shit that happened at the end of 2? You know what I mean? I used to play Killer Instinct 2, and there's a ton of things with the characters that we noticed. We were talking about it actually before we started the video, that story-wise and just looking at the character, it doesn't even look like the same guy from the previous game, Like
Tonto looks jacked.
I know, right? Tonto found HGH. Yes, he did. Or like
Saberwolf has arms again, whereas I'm pretty sure they got ripped off or cut off or something like that.
He had cybernetic arms in the second game. And then Jago and Orchid are white now. Like, what the hell happened? I remember them being like pretty dark-skinned, like almost Asian or mixed looking individuals. Now they're just pure white people. I'm like, why is that always the default? I mean, we've been through it already, so we know why, but you know what I mean? Like, there's little design choices where I'm like, seriously, you could have left that completely alone. And then they had the nerve to put...
That's another podcast. I know where you're headed.
Yeah, they put the classic costumes, remember? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
Ugh. And they look atrocious because the models don't fit the design. Like,
I was gonna say those are literally from another time.
Exactly.
Like they would not work.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Get out of here.
Okay. You said so you're about to head out, Ryosuke?
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Yeah, we'll probably continue, next time. We'll have another. We'll get Ryosuke back for another thing. So, adios, sir. It's good talking to you.
All right,
man.
Be safe, man.
All right, man.
Good.
All right, later.
Later.
Did it again. I'll get rid of that. You still there, Prime?
Oh, I was thinking another underrated
reacted
game.
That time I didn't even.
My bad.
I was thinking about another underrated game, and that would be like the Last Blade series.
Oh my God! Yes, I didn't even think about that. Yes, I played the shit out of Last Blade. I'm still trying to figure out how to download it so I can play it on my fucking.
Yeah, I tried to find 2, and I can't find it.
Really?
Like, I can't find an American version of it.
I always find them together.
I see it on. I saw it on eBay, I think, a couple times.
I need to do that. I need to look it up on eBay, see if I can get it. Cause yeah, that game was fucking amazing. I had both of them, and then I think when I got robbed, they stole the game that I had a case, like I think SNK versus Capcom 2, and I had all those games in it, and they stole it. So, and then my Dreamcast died, and I was just like, fuck it.
We should have had a thing about obscure fighting games.
Yeah.
Like the what is it, Martial Warriors or whatever?
Yeah, Martial Champions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and or Martial Masters. Martial Champions was another obscure game. That was the one where you could pick up the weapons from anybody.
Yeah.
And then everyone could use everyone else's weapon. But yeah, Martial Masters was really good. It was the Chinese Street Fighter 3, pretty much. But it was good, and it had references to kung fu movies, which is something else I always wanted to bring up.
A lot of references.
In fighting games, why is it that no one, and I think I mentioned this in one of our videos, prior videos, how come no one ever like keys the design style to an existing movie or genre that exists? Like why is it we never got a fighting game that looked like the old Shaw Brothers martial arts movies with the poppin' grain and shit like that? Like, we got grindhouse action film games, but we never got like old school kung fu movie games. You know what I mean? Or like gritty martial arts oriented street cop games that take place in like the underworld of Hong Kong or some shit like that. We got True Crime or whatever, was it Sleeping Dogs? But like, there's been so many different versions of that scenario, and
we also had Stranglehold too.
But it wasn't martial arts.
No, well, yeah.
I'm talking about
just martial arts.
Like the ones like fucking Cypress Tigers and freaking what was that one, Cheetah on Fire? And and a lot of those old Moon Lee like Iron Angels and stuff. Series. Like, I want an action game or a fighting game like that. Or why is it that we don't have parodies of those living powerhouses? Moon Lee's still alive.
Yeah.
Instead, we keep getting fucking references to people that came from animes and shit. And there's these fighters that are fucking amazing. And they did amazing shit that no one's been able to replicate. And we don't have a parody. Where's our Yuri Boyka parody? Scott Adkins is fucking amazing. We don't get a Yuri Boyka in anything.
I'm still waiting on a decent Jet Li parody to show up in Tekken.
Yeah, like where's Jet Li?
You did Wesley Snipes, even though you don't claim it's Wesley Snipes. Yeah. We all know it's Wesley Snipes.
It's fucking Wesley Snipes.
So do Jet Li next. You know.
Even Sega did fucking Gordon Liu. Like, can't we do more? Like, even their Jackie Chan reference is kind of good, but kind of like, eh. It's getting to the point now where he actually is a Jackie Chan reference, and you can tell, and they're not even trying to hide it. But like, where's all those other people? Like, like Cynthia Rothrock or fucking Richard Norton or Dick Wei or
Yunhua.
Yeah, like there's so many personalities that are martial artists, and we never see them in any.
Yeah, we need a final boss that's like Yunhua in either Eastern
or Dragons Forever. Yeah, puffing on his big old cigar.
Yeah, do all kinds of crazy acrobatic, really smooth, like transitioning parkour shit. Yeah.
We do for real. And it's weird, they just don't do it. Where's our parodies of like the landlady and her husband from fucking Kung Fu Hustle? Yes. You know what I mean? Like, and that's Yunhua, who we mentioned earlier, is the dude of the two. And I mean, come on, there's so many fighters that they just ignored. I mean, there's big American guys and small Chinese dudes and big Chinese dudes. Where's our like a Conan Lee parody or fucking what's the other guy? Like a real. They keep saying that God, what is his name? Fenway was supposed to be a Bolo parody from...
Yeah.
I couldn't see it. And so my brother was like, he's like, you can't tell? I'm like, no, because he doesn't look anything like Bolo.
He doesn't even look like Bolo when Bolo was back in the day when he was like, he was cut.
Yeah.
Like, I saw an old clip.
Chinese Hercules.
Yeah. And he didn't even look, Fenway didn't even look like that.
Fenway doesn't even look like a role that Bolo Young played. So, yeah, I want, like, something more... I know, right? I wish they would have parodies of, like, where's our Michael J. White parody? Where's our freaking, I'm trying to think of mean-ass Chinese guys. Like the dude from, the villain from True Legend that was played by Andy On. With the dragon skin stitched into his chest. The armor was stitched into his body. And he had like a poison fist style. Like, where is that shit? It's all creative. It all fits perfectly. You don't even have to do anything. You could rip him off and just call him something else, and no one would complain. Everyone would be like, shit, that's Homeboy from blah, blah, blah. Instead, we keep getting anime recycled into everything, and it's fucking annoying.
Same characters with the same color hair, and the same personalities.
I'm so tired of Ryu clones. Yeah, Ryu clones all day long. Wrestlers, why do we only get Hulk Hogan, fucking Jushin Thunder Liger, and fucking what's the other guy? Or Liger X, I think was his name, right? Liger, or yeah, because they did an anime about him and the other one.
Yeah.
And we always get the same guys. Hulk Hogan is always one of them. Then there's a couple obscure Japanese wrestlers that you sometimes get, but it's always the same guys. Where's our Ultimate Warrior? You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of
what?
I'm thinking of if they did a parody of a Hard Gate. That would be so awesome.
That would have been awesome. Hard Gate. Yeah, man. Have you ever seen him before?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right?
I think the gay community though would get pissed
but he exists.
I know, but
he's real.
But he gets away with it because he's Japanese.
Yeah.
Like if you were to do that in America, people would get really offended. And I
sure
can understand that.
I'm sure if we looked, if we actually had the balls to look, and I don't have the balls to look, I don't want to find out. But if we had the balls to look, I'm sure there's a gay wrestling something or other in the U.S. that has just as outlandish, if not more outlandish, fighters.
It's true. It's possible.
So yeah, it wouldn't be too surprising. It's just there's so many things that they just don't tap. Like, I want a game where the boss is the original White Lotus. The old man with the white hair that kind of looks like what Gen is starting to look like in the new games. That, like, you can't hit him with certain moves because his style just will allow those moves to brush off and you have to use a different type of technique to hit him. Like, I want that kind of uniqueness with my bosses. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like the bosses in games, like there was a guy on one of my, he just commented the other day, as a new subscriber, he commented on my Street Fighter X Tekken, and he said Virtua Fighter is the best because there are no fireballs and no robots and no Blanca and no blah blah blah. And I'm like, apparently you haven't been playing Virtua Fighter for very long.
What the fuck is Dural?
Because Dural is a robot with the spirit or the mind of Kage's mother. And she also shoots fireballs sometimes. She had a beam back in, what was the game? Fighting Vipers. No, Fighters Megamix was the name of the game. She had like an I-beam thing. And then there was that guy called BM or something like that, which is horrible.
I was trying to not laugh.
You can't. His name is fucking BM. He's this big dude. He looked like Serpentor, and he also had some kind of projectile-ish kind of move. There were a lot of those, like, the bosses in that game that had projectile moves. Shit, there was the chick Janet from Virtua Cop who fought with her fucking gun. So, like, yeah, they've had, you know, and that game was still amazing. I'm not even going to diss it. It was amazing because they simplified the Virtua Fighter control scheme so everybody kind of played roughly in a similar fashion, and it was quick, it was responsive. The block button seemed to work if you just barely touched it. It was awesome. And there were so many damn characters. But anyway, long story short, Virtua Fighter is not, you know, without its characters that they ripped from, with moves that they ripped from other games in the same genre. And that includes fireballs and dragon punches and juggles and hurricane kicks and infinite throws and shit like that. So
hell, they ripped off of like Tekken style characters with those two dudes they added in.
Oh, the
one guy
kickboxer
had the hoodie and shit on,
yeah,
just like Jin had in Tekken 4.
Yeah, Go.
Yeah,
what was his name? Go. He was all Korean gangster or Japanese gangster actually.
Yeah.
And then they had the Spanish dude, Brad something or other, who was a kickboxer. And then recently Burns, yep. And then they had the new guy. His name is like Jean-Luc or something, and he does drunken style or something. I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for it. And there was like a Taekwondo somebody or other. So yeah, they rip off Tekken all the time. So I had to throw that in there because I was thinking about it while we're talking fighting games that, yeah, no game is safe from that shit anymore because it's a staple. You got to have those things because they're things that fans seem to look for, you know? But, yeah, back to the characters, man. They need to expand. That's what's missing. That's why, like, some of the games that we mentioned, they had those things, you know? Bloody Roar had a lot of, like, looks and styles and things that you didn't normally see in the fighting games that came before it. And even the ones that were out around that time. Fucking, like, in Bloody Roar 2, one of the regular characters from 1 was the last boss of the game. Mm-hmm. When was the last time that shit ever happened? I mean, it happens in the reverse, where, like, the guy was the boss, and now he's a normal character in the game. But since when do you just go to boss status? You know what I mean? Like, he just got so badass that it was ridiculous. And he was hard to fight, too, and he wasn't extremely fast. He wasn't extremely, like OP'd in everything he did. It was just some of his techniques kind of, like, shut down some of your basic abilities. And it made you have to rely on other ways to fight him. You either had to just out-combo his ass, or you had to counter the fuck out of him so you could always switch your position and attack him from a weird angle and just exploit that. But, most games don't do that shit, you know? Shit, even Gato, a big dude who had footwork. There's no big guys that have, like, kicks the way, like, Kazuya and Law kick. Mm-hmm. And Gato and fucking Sheena had crazy footwork with their kicks and stuff. So it's weird how, like, we're missing a lot of the ingenuity and the uniqueness that, you know, some of these fighting games or characters could have. And there's fighters that exist in real life, like fucking Maurice Crump. Can we get a parody of him? He would be like the ultimate black guy in anything. For real, he'd be the greatest.
I want a Chuck Jeffries parody.
That'd be awesome too.
Where he plays a little bit like Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, like from Blood Moon.
Yeah, because they did call him what was it, Eddie Snipes or something.
Eddie Snipes.
Like
Yep.
That was just like his nickname.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Freaking Gary Daniels.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe you could
too. Thinking of Blood Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I had money, I would buy the rights to the Capoeira Fighter games, and I would just make that shit like a full-on console fighting game, because all those characters in there they all did capoeira, but it was all totally different. I mean, there were a bunch of capoeira fighters, but then they also had characters that were parody. They had, of course, an obligatory Bruce Lee parody. They had a parody of the one dude from Karate Kid, the white guy.
Oh yeah,
from Karate Kid.
The Cobra Kai Dojo.
Yeah, yeah. They had that, which I was like, whoa, what the hell? Like, I would have never thought to use that dude, but it works.
Sweep the leg, Johnny. Sweep the leg.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously were thinking a little bit outside of they were thinking a lot outside of the box.
They had a parody. They had 7 from Once Upon a Time in China. What is that, 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 3.
They had Mark Dacascos. He was Santos.
Santo.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of his moves was a move that he did in Only the Strong. Even his stage was the inside of the firehouse that he cleaned out, that made into his like dojo practice area.
Yep.
Like that was his stage. So I mean, they were touching on all these things that if you were into this, if you're into fighting games and you're into martial art movies and stuff, you'll see them there. Yep. And I would totally take that shit and expand on it, and you know, make the characters play a little bit better than what they played in that game, because it was a flash-based keyboard game, but with 3D graphics. I don't know. It just was. I was just totally blown away when I saw it that this existed and nobody's like jumped on it
because they've all been told that capoeira is weak. But when a 6'5" guy does a backflip and kicks you in the face, you tell me if that feels weak.
Even does the
spin kick.
The spin kick that you always see capoeira fighters do, because that shit, even if you block it, the way the physics behind that kick, it's a lot of power behind it. Like that. Like I always go back to that MMA fight. That it's on YouTube somewhere, but the guy does the kick. Yeah, he does that capoeira spinning wheel kick. He does it twice. The guy blocks the first one, but his block was completely broken. Before he could get his block back up, the kick was already coming around the second time. Caught the dude right in the jaw and was just completely knocked out. That was the end of the fight. Like people don't realize how deadly capoeira is because it's become like taekwondo. It's become a sport-based martial art.
Well, no. It's because
dancing all the time. You're just dancing.
Yeah.
Well, because in movies they always make it look weak, and they always make the guys who do capoeira never. They don't have hand skill. They don't cross train.
Yeah.
So like Tony Jaa can beat them by doing XMA, even though technically that's where all the shit came from. Like, yeah, why can't the capoeiristas practice something else besides fucking capoeira? I mean, shit, I did, and I'm tall. I just figured, yeah, you gotta know how to box. I learned how to box before I learned the little bit of capoeira that I use, or that I would use when fighting. So it's like, what the fuck, you know? That doesn't make any sense, you know, but whatever. You know who else needs a parody? God, I was thinking about this too. Like, how come Mark Dacascos never got a parody besides that game?
Yeah.
Damn it, I hate when that happens. I just lost my train of thought.
From Drive. He needs a parody of his character from Drive.
It's time to come home, Toby. Drive was awesome. Sammo Hung needs a real parody, not a white guy. It's just too many, man. It's so many that we could just go on and on and on for days about, like, you know, what they...
But who's left to innovate in the world of fighting games is what? 2 companies. Arguably one, because... So...
Yeah, I still don't know why Tekken Tag 2 didn't sell well compared to...
Probably
like
because of
Street
Evo.
Probably.
Evo has shifted the focus away from everything else.
Is it really that? I mean, I know it's big, but I mean...
Well, it's big
but people
because
play
the
Tekken
kids...
and Evo, though.
Do they really control people like that much? Like, seriously, if Evo doesn't talk about something, then people will not pursue it?
Well, I heard that when the new Mortal Kombat that came out, I had heard that they had paid to get that Mortal Kombat into the Evo tournaments. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's true or not, but that was the rumor I heard.
Oh, well, yeah, because they did put Mortal Kombat in there.
Because you remember the year... Well, they did it the following year.
Yeah.
Because the first year they said it was too broken and they wouldn't do it.
It's still broken.
And it's still broken. So I was like, yeah, for real. Mortal Kombat was one of those games that I don't understand how people were playing in tournaments anyway, because it was...
Well, they were playing Smash Brothers in tournaments.
That's true.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I'm like, dude, like that to me is what really made me like...
Strategy in Smash Brothers is only going to take you so far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Like I played it with my nieces and nephews, and they're little, but you know they have a Wii and it has like all these games on it because a friend of the family had hooked them up with a hard drive. Just has I don't know how many games. It has a shit ton of games on it, but we were playing it and I'm like there's no way like even though each character has a play style, I still can't see how there's too much randomness going on with the stages itself and with the setup of the game, because it's not meant to be played
tournament wise.
Yeah, it's not meant to be played with a whole lot of in-depth strategy. Like it's for casual gamers. So you're not going to have a move list or a move set that's
complex.
Yeah, it's overly complex. So it's so random and so crazy that I can't see how you would accept this in a tournament. Or even the Naruto games. Like, I've seen people playing those, not in Evo, but I've seen it in like on like Friday night fights in California at the I guess the one big arcade they have left over there or whatever. and I'm like that game, it's not complex enough.
Yeah, exactly.
because everybody has their basic throw shuriken moves, charge up, you know, their chi.
It's just cosmetic differences.
Yeah, but they all have the same function.
And I'm going to say it now before they start. Don't bother in the comments trying to rail us because we pointed out what's wrong with the game. We're not saying that you can't like it.
I was just about to go through that too, a little disclaimer.
Yeah, you can like whatever the fuck you want to like, but you have to understand that just because you like it doesn't mean that it hits the same standard as some of the other shit that's out there. Because right now, we're talking on technical levels, which means we've played these things. And we know the difference. It's just like those this infinite number of Dragon Ball Z
There's a new
3D
one about
games.
to come out.
Yeah, they're all the fucking same, and they usually tweak one thing. Either there's more room for you to fight in, or it's like multi-tiered fighting. It's like either you fight on the ground, and then you can jump into the air, and then whatever. But it's always the same dial a super. Everything is dial a super except for your charge up moves where you hit a combination. You still dial it in. Combination of buttons and then they go into the Kaioken. Combination of buttons and they go into the fucking, you know, Kameha or whatever, or a charge up Kameha or something. So we're not telling you that the game sucks. We're saying it's not complex enough to be a tournament game. There's more luck involved and more just randomness than there is actual skill. So I just wanted to throw that shit out there because you always get that one jackass in the comments who just has the obligatory troll who has to be like, well, I think that, well, if you really played this game, then you would know that, blah, blah, blah. No, don't even open your mouth. Don't even do it. Don't even bother typing it because I'm just going to either delete it or I'm not going to answer because it's just a waste of time to go through all of the reason why. You know, shit, I already went through it. I just told you. Like, you know, we don't need to go any further.
I mean, those games are fun. I played Dragon Ball up to Budokai 3.
I did, too. I played one or two of them. I got tired of them after a while, I have to admit.
Like, I mean, but I quit because, I mean, I dug the fact, like the thing I hated about the show was it became all about the Saiyans. Like, they were the only one, after a while, they were the only ones that could beat any opposition that ever came up because they were able to progress, whereas the other characters reached a point and couldn't progress beyond. Mm-hmm. Where and you play the games, and I can beat Broly with Piccolo, or I can beat Broly with Krillin. You know, because if I play the game right,
or go 10.
Yeah, you know, if you play the game right, you can win.
Yeah.
But the game was always contingent on your chi meter, like. Because the computer would always try to out-teleport you, and you'd always end up in a teleport match, at least one round.
Yeah.
You'd be trying to out-teleport each other, and whoever had the most chi at the time would ultimately win the teleport match. And the engine, I don't know, there just wasn't enough with each character, because everybody had relatively the same amount of moves, because Dragon Ball characters have a lot of the same moves in the show. And they didn't do enough with certain characters to differentiate.
Yep.
Like Piccolo had a few ranged attacks where it was kind of like, you know, he was kind of like a Dalsim character because that's what he did in the show. But they never expanded on that, which would have been cool.
Like give them an entire fighting style.
Based on the abilities that they're able to do in the show. Take it and run with it.
Yep.
They never went with that. They never went in that direction.
Yep.
And I kind of wish they would do that with Naruto because there are characters in there that are so different from the next character that if you were to take the guy who controls bugs, I can't remember his name offhand, but you could have all kinds of different attacks and different strategies based on the kinds of bugs that he uses.
Yeah. Should even Rock Lee, based on the fact that they've shown you he's got like 3 or 4 modes of fighting.
Yeah.
And, you know, once you drop the weights, that
you're
should be
super
one
fast
and
ridiculously fast. Can't even be touched.
Yeah.
You know, if he drinks, he's all of a sudden got the drunken style.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If they played off of all those things that make those characters interesting in the show, those games would be a hell of a lot more fun to play.
But the fan base doesn't want that. They just want the fan service, which means the game exists. You can pick your favorite person, and you can watch them do exactly what you already saw them do in the show.
Yeah.
So that's all they need to do. Bandai knows it, and that's why they don't go any further.
Yeah.
That's why those games don't count when it comes to tournament play. When we move on to the other games, like all the shit we had already talked about, from freaking Fighting Street or Rocky all the way to fucking, you know, Street Fighter 4, at least they spent a little bit more time trying to make it competitive, like make it where each character, you know, and this is to varying degrees of success, you know, some of them have better move sets and some of them have better play styles. Some games just have better engines for competition. Not every game is good. Like Ready to Rumble is one of my favorite boxing games, but it's not competition ready. I mean, there's times where you swing and you clearly duck the punch and your guy still goes through the animation. I mean, you see him physically duck and the punch is over his head, then he stumbles because somehow that was still within the hitbox. You know what I mean? Like they didn't quite get it there yet, you know, where things were 100% precise. Or characters punch low and you get hit in the face. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. It was a low punch. There's no way you could have hit me in the face. Or, you know, distance. They tell you in the beginning of like when the game is loading, it'll tell you the reach of each of the characters. But there's short people that outreach some of the taller characters. Like, it's little things, you know, and these are things I always complained about with games done by Midway or Williams, whatever they became. I think it's both.
That's why they don't do games anymore.
I know, right? They always had these little things, you know, and Mortal Kombat was involved too, where like big characters would miss, small characters would have priority, or, you know, the fan favorite would have priority, whereas like the least favorite character in the series would just completely suck. And it's like every character should have the potential to be the winner in some kind of circle in some situation, because it's all about how you use those characters, you know. And if you play a game and that's the case, you should be able to tell that that's, you know, that's what's going on. It's poor planning, poor programming, and it's just an unfinished engine or a not well thought out engine, you know, poorly thought out engine. So I don't know, I hate that stuff. I want to see if I have any. What's your favorite character in a fighting game of all of them?
All of them.
Yeah, of all the games you've played.
I already know what mine is.
Who's yours?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Raven. Because you, how often is it that you see a black ninja in a video game or in a fighting game?
That's not a joke.
Yeah, I mean, he's super difficult to win in the game, but whenever you see him in cutscenes or whatever, he's doing some badass shit because he's supposed to be Blade.
Yeah.
Like, once I saw that, I was like, I have to play as this character.
Yeah, I did too.
I've always wanted to see this sort of thing, this sort of character archetype, and just never did, and they never did it. And then Capcom did it. Why they handled it the way they did, I will never know.
Yeah.
But I still played, and I got decent enough to, like, win against people while playing with that character. But yeah, that's probably my favorite fighting game character.
Yeah, he's pretty damn dope. It's a good design. The design itself, man, just on a design level, just looking at the parts and the pieces, they gave him the same level of intricacy that they gave everybody else. And that's what you got to give them props for.
That's one thing I really like about Namco is all their characters get a very good design treatment. Yeah, in Tekken.
In Tekken.
Yeah, like there's not one like whereas Bruce Irving would have been like stereotypical, like, oh, Thai guy, Thai fighter or whatever, but they made me like the character based on the way they designed him. Same thing with Eddie Gordo or Christy Monteiro. They've done certain things. They made them just as cool looking as everyone else.
Exactly.
Like the Japanese characters aren't the coolest, baddest King Dinglings of the entire game. Like they have competition, you know. Which is something I wish, you know, other fighting game
Street
companies...
Fighter.
Yeah, Street Fighter. Street Fighter mainly.
You motherfuckers need to wake up. Fucking redesign some of these characters and make them make sense. I don't know. You have a favorite character?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I don't know, actually.
I would say mine would be Lee Rekka from fucking Last Blade 1 and 2. Because I love Wong Fei Hong. I love Wong Fei Hong, man. Like, if I could be Wong Fei Hong, I would have been him. Maybe, who knows, you know? Like, dude is just one of those characters, like, America has Superman, China can have Wong Fei Hong. You know what I mean? And he doesn't get enough representation in games. And he's one of those characters who's not a he's not 100% stereotypical, even though some of the things about him are kind of stereotypical Chinese, you know? But the fact that, not only the fact that it's Wong Fei Hong in a fighting game, but the fact that he had Jet Li's no shadow kick. You know, Jet Li did the slanted no shadow kick. And he has it. I mean, I wish they made it a special, like a super special move instead of just like one of his regular special moves. But man, the first time I saw that dude, man, I almost lost my shit because I'm like, they got Wong Fei Hong in a fucking game, and he assumes the stance and everything
and
with the gong
poses with the lion head dance.
It was all these references to kung fu movies that I have to have watched a billion times. I mean, the Once Upon a Time in China series, God, whether I wanted to or not, we watched that shit on a daily basis all through college, and some of them I watched before college. But man, they got that shit off. And Jet Li was my favorite Wong Fei Hong. Yeah, he's easily it. I didn't even think too much about the character because I hadn't been playing those games for a while. But in the back of my mind, I'm always like, man, I want a Wong Fei Hong character in a 3D, like, you know, like a Tekken style game or something like that. And we never get it. And then we had him perfect in that game. And the fact that he was fighting with a fan, whereas everyone else was using some type of outwardly, you know, violent weapon, and this guy's using a fan. Like, dude's a badass, straight up.
Surprised I didn't give him the umbrella.
Yeah, I know, that would have been awesome. But that was Wong Ki-ying more. Well, he did run around with an umbrella in some of the movies too. But yeah, I love fucking Lee Recca. That dude was awesome. I wish he had a better name. They should have given him a name that was 3 parts, you know, like Wong Fei Hong, so you would totally get it.
Lee Recca Ken.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh man, what about you, man? You sure it's not Jada?
That's the easy pick.
Hey, if easy's good.
I guess. You know, because I'm trying to like broaden, like, you know, figure out there's another game that I'm missing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely the first one that does come to mind.
Okay, how about this? Favorite 2D character, and then we can do favorite 3D character. So 2D for me is Lee. What about you? We're Lee Recca from Last Blade. So your favorite 3D character is obviously Raven. 3D fighting game character.
If I had to pick a 2D, it would probably be John Talbane.
Oh yeah,
because
first werewolf they ever did like that.
and that character, like that, I wanted to play Darkstalkers because of that character alone. I really dug his design, and for some reason, like I've always been drawn more to animal or like beast type of characters. Like
he's
when
like
I first
furries.
started, I get.
I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with you. No.
But no, like the first Street Fighter character I ever played of was with Blanca.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why. I guess it's because to me they look more powerful than just playing as a regular human.
Yeah.
So I gravitated towards Blanca, and then when that game came out, he was easily like my favorite. The design just appealed to me the most out of anybody else in the game. Then as I played, I started to get into the other characters like Riku.
So you like the weird, like anthropomorphic characters, yeah. Man, 3D characters, man, I gotta think about this. I was gonna say Kazuya because Kazuya is like straight up just evil. Like there's just nothing else about, like they took Akira from Virtua Fighters and just took him down a different road entirely and said like, what happened if this dude was this? You know what I mean? Like it's, man, throwing his dad off the mountain and then just smiling like, yay! I'm like, wow, that shit blew my mind.
In Tekken 5 when he killed he killed Jinpachi.
Yeah.
Like
he had a flashback to when he was a kid and Jinpachi's all kind and nice and he just kills him.
Yeah.
And smiles about it like, huh, yep, he's dead and I got all his power. It's like, what the fuck? Like he's like the villain. The villain. I was gonna say Bison because I've always dug Bison ever since the animated Street Fighter movie. The fact that Bison is just batshit insane. Like there's nothing about him that like screams sanity. He's crazy. It's just done. And he's enjoying it too, with the big ass smile he always has. But nah, I'd say Kazuya. You know, it'd be between those two, but Kazuya. Kazuya is fucking like, he'd be the ultimate, like, hands down villain for any hero that you want to have fight, especially in a fighting game. His moves are dope. Like the one throw where he like smashes your head on the ground and it kicks you in your butt or whatever. It's like, God, man, like dude is just vicious. And his designs just keep getting better and better and better and better. Although I think the best design he had was in 4 when he had that typical Yakuza fancy ass satin shirt and the vest and that shit was cool. But yeah, Kazuya, I'm trying to think of other fighting games before I just say that and stick with it. But Kazuya would be up there. I can't think of too many 3D characters because so many games don't do it right. You know, the characters are in 3 dimensions. They have all the tools to let you see, you know, how cool this character is or how well they design things, but something's always missing.
Well, what about 2D? Oh, you already said it.
I did.
I'm surprised you didn't pick Ralph.
Yeah, I love Ralph too. He's funny. But there's another guy in the game that looks just like him.
Yeah,
with a
that's
different
true.
head. That's why he's not 100% unique.
Klaruku.
But and shit, Lee would whoop his ass. Like Lee's style is just fucking ridiculous with all the flames coming off his feet and like, yeah, he's quality. But Ralph, yeah, he's a unique character though. I love the new super they gave him in the newer King of Fighters
13,
where they took it from One Piece. He throws these, he like turns all red and he's just like blah, 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 and he throws all these punches and they're like long, it looks like his arms stretched out and they're hitting you like a machine gun. Then he stops and the red color fades from him and all this steam just shoots off of his body. It's ridiculous. Because supposedly I saw the footage where Luffy did some shit like that to this character that was covered in like gold or something like that. And I fucking hate One Piece. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what. I never did understand what the appeal of that show is, but
man, I
still Clarion, you haven't given us anything yet, man.
Yeah, come on.
Like I said, this is how out of practice I am. But I don't know, Kazuya's a good one. Like I said, you gotta disrespect somebody who is that unapologetically evil.
He just accepted it. Like, yep, it's it for me.
Yeah, so evil that he took over the demon that was possessing his body.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what the fuck? Who does that?
It's like, now I own you. No, you don't. But yeah, so Jade is definitely a good pick for me for 2D. Gotta respect that ambition too, you know. He just, you know, everybody else had their particular goal in that game, and his was like, I want to become God. I'm like,
that's an ambition right there.
All right. And I mean, and where do you fight him? You fight him at the stage called the Fetus of God, which is one of the freakiest stages I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with that baby in the background, like
giant red man. Oh no, that's not.
That's old Capcom for you, where they actually used their fucking imagination and they made some good shit.
Yeah, like 3D.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else.
I don't know who I use a lot in 3D games, but that doesn't make him like my favorite character per se. Like I could just bail out and say far wrong, but
yeah. But do you like everything about his character?
I do not.
Yeah, he's kind of questionable.
Well, he's the Ken to Jin's Ryu.
Yeah. And that's the problem. That is the problem. Trying to think of any other 3D games that had really cool fighters. And Soul Calibur, Taki was always one of my favorite characters. And Li Long was a beast. But I love Taki because she's a devil hunter, and I always dug demon hunters. That's like the coolest profession in like manga and everything to me. Like, you hunt and kill demons. You're like a fucking G. Like, there's no comparison. That's why when I read, and this is all off the subject, but when I read that episode of Gambit, that issue where Blade showed up and Gambit beat Blade, I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Clearly, the person who wrote this doesn't understand the difference between fighting a demon and fighting a person or a mutant or something. Like, Blade has the hardest job of, like, between the two, dude steals for a living, and Blade saves the fucking world from Armageddon on a daily basis. or I'm sorry, Apocalypse on a daily basis, and not the stupid mutant character. Like, he's saving us from the end of everything on a daily basis, and somehow Gambit can beat him. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Oh, I don't know how true it is, but I read when they wanted, if they were going to put Gambit in another X-Men movie, I guess it must be that. I guess still the Days of Future Past they were talking about.
Yeah.
You know who they were talking about casting as Gambit?
Channing Tatum.
Yes.
Yeah. No, they want to do a Gambit movie with Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
Because when I think, you know,
Southern hospitality.
like
Southern Creole,
hospitality.
yeah. Channing Tatum comes to mind.
Right to the
Corn-fed Channing Tatum comes to mind. when you think of somebody from New Orleans.
Yeah.
Like, freaking Cannonball. I'm like, I'd be fine with that.
That'd be fine, yeah.
But no. I still say if you were gonna put him in the damn G.I. Joe movie, he would have been a perfect Chuckles.
Yeah, I agree. Even with the serious tone that he has now, where he's so fucked up from all the like Chuckles takes the jobs no one else takes because he doesn't know yet. He's not right in the head from all the undercover work. That would be cool. He'd still work. Yeah, I wouldn't have made him Duke. No, hell no. God, that's so weird. Come on, 3D person. 3D.
I said already.
Oh, you did, Hwarang?
Oh, damn it, that's right. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Shit. Trying to think somebody else from Tekken who I like as a character.
Well, the 3D games that are out there that you can think of. You can think Soul Calibur. You can think Bloody Roar. You can think obviously Street Fighter, even though we don't like the 3D version.
Yeah,
of Street
because
Fighter.
that's 3D now.
Although Street Fighter EX, as much as I was not a huge fan of it, I liked the first one. And fucking Darren was a badass looking character. Do you remember Darren? He was the Middle Eastern wrestler who had
with the really long,
crazy pointy mustache.
Yeah.
That
I don't know why they didn't just use him instead of that Turkish dude.
Oh God.
Pouring oil all over himself.
Yeah,
and getting into those suggestive positions with characters. Squeezing them out of his pecs and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Martial arts.
Capcom was on crack.
It's
It
a
was
real
some
martial
cat
art.
crack when they came up with that character.
Embarrassing.
That character's embarrassing, and then the oversexed Korean chick.
Oh Lord. Jury.
Yeah, who has moves and her stance is the
Everything
exact
is
same.
Kim Cap-Wan.
Yeah.
Well,
Or that
Kim
other
Cap-Wan
guy.
and Jun Hoon. It's
Yeah.
like a mixture between the two of them.
Yeah, I was like, man, you guys failed.
Yeah, they did. They really did. I couldn't believe that shit when I saw it. And then fans were like, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
because they saw underboob and they were like, all right, I'm sold. We saw an Asian girl with underboob.
all that shit is nice when you actually
Great
get
character
to interact.
design. Love it. I bet you do. Waiting for the cosplay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And the
Time to
Rule
fap.
34 to come into effect.
Yeah, I know, right? Time to fap. Fap, fap, fap.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I saw. Even though I enjoy the anime because it is entertaining.
What, Kill La Kill?
Yeah, like as soon as you see that costume, you're like, yeah, where's Rule 34 and where's the cosplay? Because you know it's happening. Like I can hear the sewing machines going for people making the cosplay already.
Well,
It's out there.
Yeah. Well, if we've drifted this far from the subject, that means everybody's out already done. I was gonna ask one. Well, I had a couple more, but do you guys think? Here's the last thing we can talk about before we go, because we're already into our like third hour. Do you guys think like fighting games can really be controversial? Like typically, when a game, and I'm not talking about like when we were younger and they had like bloody games like Thrill Kill and fucking Time Killers and all those the games were horrible to begin with. So the fact that somebody actually played through it enough to find something to complain about, past the fact that the game actually was made, like I'm talking about like the way people complained about games like Kakuto Chojin, and they were saying like the fact that this stage has Islamic chanting on it it's fucked up, or Muslim chanting or whatever. They're saying that it's that's not cool. So we need to get rid of that. That's controversial. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you really think that the things they say are controversial in games, are in fighting games, are really as controversial as people kind of try to make it? I personally, I don't think so either. I think it's just one of those. It's one of those. I mean, it's just like what we're dealing with now with all the shooting, the mass shootings, and people trying to blame it on first-person shooters and Grand Theft Auto. It's just an easy scapegoat. When Columbine happened, they tried to blame that shit on Doom. I mean, Doom is as cartoony a game as you can get, where you're not even shooting people. Mm-hmm. You're shooting like demons and shit from hell. Yeah. So it's always going to be used as a way to not talk about the real issue, which is mental health issues. I mean, if you think about the amount of people that play video games across the world, and these mass shootings are only really happening here. Yeah. Like you had the one in Sweden, during Kids' Day or Children's Day or whatever. Yeah, but that was rare. Yeah, and that was like the first of its kind over there. But here it's happening all the time. So if you were to just think about the sheer number of people who play games, and the fact that all these people, not all these people probably have some kind of mental health issue, there should be a lot more mass shootings, but there isn't. Yeah. Plus we also have the media kind of fueling the fire.
Yeah, because they all want to blame video games. They all want to blame people. They want to blame everything except the people who have the guns in the first place. Because a lot of these people who are either using loopholes to get guns, or they're getting their guns from their family members who weren't responsible enough with them. But those aspects never come into question when it's time to talk about how this whole incident happened in the first place. The only way I could see a fighting game getting controversial is if they actually do a really in-depth storyline that actually touches on something that's controversial in order to make you think.
Which has never happened.
Yeah.
The closest I could think of is The Warriors, and it's not even a fighting game per se. It's just a beat-em-up based on a film. But some of the shit you do in the game is pretty hardcore, because it's essentially kids just beating the shit out of each other. And I mean, like, not even in skillful ways. I mean, it's just like
brawling,
pummeling the hell out of one another,
But hell, wouldn't in some ways, let me think about how I'm going to phrase this.
Oh,
if we went back to that, like, guys, whatever, you got a problem, 3 o'clock by the flagpole, and then you fight, and then you both go home, and then you kind of forget about it. Mm-hmm. Not like, you fight and you lose. I'm going to get my cousin or my brother or whoever on you.
No, you man up like in the old days. I know what you mean.
Yeah, God forbid you go back and get a weapon now because you can't stand the fact that you lost. Well, if you're afraid of losing, don't fucking step up. Uh-huh. There's an easy fix to that problem. Mm-hmm. But if we could just go back to, like whatever, if you really can't settle your shit with words, and God knows there are times when you can't, like we can just go back to that. It's like, fine, like you all just settle this, the two of you settle it now, and then it's done. If we can get back to that, and that's fine. The Warriors doesn't necessarily help you with that because, they're a gang. But But even think of, like, again, the fact that the thing was made in, like, 1979, and, like, the thing starts with, like, somebody, the one member actually had a gun, because none of them carried those.
Yeah.
Because what fun is that?
But I just, I hear all these controversies, and I hear about, like, this game did this, and it had this character. This girl shows too much skin for this game. And
it's the age of the medium, too. That definitely plays into it, how, like, video games will forever be viewed as children's entertainment.
That's true.
They're working very hard to kind of shake that, or at least kind of like get it to be joint. Like, there can be games for adults and there can be games for kids. It can happen. But a lot of people just will forever see it as, it's like, if it's video games, they think of friggin' Nintendo and Mario and Sonic, and that's it. Like as far as like the masses, Like for people who don't actually play or have kids who play, like that's what they envision when they hear the word video games.
Yeah.
And so when they see things like Call of Duty or Doom or Homefront or Medal of Honor or any of those things like that, they're like, wait a minute, you mean kids could play games like that? Well, no, they don't, because they're rated mature, so you're supposed to be older than 17 when you buy it. All of that is just like, no,
that never happened.
Well, the same argument that they raise about, that we should raise about video games is the same argument that they raise about movies, like that skit that I sent you, Strident, with Sam Jackson's. It's all Sam Jackson's fault. When really parents should have been taking responsibility for what their kids watch. You know, the same thing should apply to video games. You know, or certain things that I guess you would consider controversial. Like there was the whole implied. I don't even want to say rape, but it was. In the new Tomb Raider game, the guy was like contemplating like he was gonna take her cookie, but it wasn't gonna happen in the game because Lara Croft isn't that kind of character to just take it lying down or whatever.
Well, no, if it happened, she'd avenge it.
Yeah, or yeah, that's true too. But the fact that made a huge controversy just because the guy said rape and the scene suggested a rape-like atmosphere, I guess you could say. I don't think that should have been as controversial as it ended up being.
Well, look at the rest of the game. With all the fucked up shit that's going on in the game, it's like, why did you only focus on that?
But plus that and we have rape happen in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And
they win fucking Oscars and Academy Awards and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it's addressed, you know, like...
Yeah, in a movie, it's character development. In the game, it's like, I told you, it's the age of the media.
Yeah, you're right.
That image that they think, oh, well, every video game that comes out must be appropriate for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
you're right.
You know, so therefore, when games deal with topics like that, well, first off, sometimes they do it in a kind of a ham-fisted manner, which definitely upsets people.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But
help.
that's more a creative decision rather than saying that they cannot deal with the topic at all. I don't think that's really fair. Like, I think if they handle it well, you can deal with friggin' anything.
It can be handled well. I think you've got games like Last of Us that handle storytelling very well. It's just we also have games that are handled and told by guys who are fucking juvenile in their mentality and their approach to certain things. So we still that's why we still have that look at that people looking at games as being for kids or you know, they're being ultra violent because people are trying to do the next shocking thing that was more shocking than the last, and so that does detract from the fact that these games can be looked at as adult material.
Yeah. See, and in fighting games, it's weird because fighting games don't really get into all that. Fighting games are real simple. You got a bunch of stereotypes fighting for a prize usually, or just fighting.
Exactly. At best, they're archetypes, but more often than not, they're stereotypes.
They're stereotypes. And yeah, man, it's strange because, you know, I've heard, you know, Mortal Kombat is controversial. Like, this new Mortal Kombat didn't make any waves. But did you see some of the fucking fatalities in the game? Some of that shit is fucking foul. I was like, are you kidding me?
And I think they could have even took it further.
Of course they could, but if they make a sequel, they probably will.
Yeah.
Hey, one of them, like, I mean, there's like some stuff that happened in there. I'm looking and like I felt weird about like objecting to it, but I mean, look at like Kung Lao's fatality. Like, oh, he like takes his hat and like cuts your head off and then cuts your body in half. Like, dude, you already cut the head off. I don't care.
Yeah.
Or the one where he sticks it in the ground and then drags you over the hat.
Spinning hat blade.
So it splits you in half.
That's pretty.
Or fucking Noob Saibot's one where he rips you. One guy grabs one arm and leg, the other guy grabs another arm and leg, and they just pull you apart. I'm like, that's fucking
the wishbone fatality.
Yeah, it's just messed up.
Asymmetrical, the perfect. Oh no, part symmetrically, a perfect half. I'm like, that's wow.
It's jacked up.
You guys tried.
It's jacked up, but you know it's.
I'll get to that. But as far as like, well, that's the thing. A lot of times sometimes I think they're starting to catch on where like they know controversy, like, you know, it drives sales.
Yeah.
So maybe sometimes they don't try to, like, you know, shed the line. Because you're right, like, Mortal Kombat made, like, nothing. I think but even then, it did make waves, but it was, like, the most conservative of, like, the right side, like, the right-wing politics. So, like, how do we still make the games this violent and blah, blah, blah? I'm like, but you can have, like, you know, stuff happen in movies where, again, when you got, like, ultra violence happen. That's why I'm surprised when they remade RoboCop, they changed his origin. Oh, he just got blown up instead. Because that's much better.
Yeah, exactly.
Than having, like, you know, than literally being amputated by, your arm amputated by gunfire, like the original Murphy did.
God.
But I'm like, but they can get there again. It's just, the violence is less taboo now. It's those other social things you can do, like I said, like anything sexual. Yeah. Like a lot of sort of like not even friggin' like depictions of people really, like, you know, trigger something unless somebody straight up shows up in blackface.
Yeah.
Or something like that, or you get like a Charlie Chan straight horrible Asian stereotype where you really get any outcry because of that. So it's just those couple of things, like, so, like, sexual, definitely gonna, like, you know, set some flags off. But other than that, it's
it can be handled in a manner that's, as long as if they address the problem, like they address the issue, so it's not a I don't know how to put it. like
yeah, but you're right. It's like I mean, seriously, movies go over these things all the time. It's like it's a part of the character development. It's a part of the story. It's like, literally, if you remove some of these, like, some of these horrific events from the tale, it's like you're doing the story a disservice. It's like, it's not going to have the same impact. Well, I don't know whether they think video games can get around. I'm like, oh, you don't actually have to show, you know, whatever, like this particular scene of violence or this particular scene, because you just don't have to. You know, it's a video game. You can just, no, it's a part of the story that I'm trying to tell in the game. Like, if we can, like, get past that or get that to be accepted, then maybe it won't happen as much. I also think the whole, like, you know, never-ending quest to, like, you know, traverse the uncanny valley hurts too. Mm-hmm. It's like everybody just, like, everything's just pushing toward making things look more realistic. So then your stories and your content are just getting more realistic, which I kind of don't like. It's like, let games be fun again. We were talking about that earlier, a few hours ago. Like a couple hours ago. Let games be fun again. Like, it's okay. You can play a game and, like, laugh intentionally. Not ironically. But, no. Like, if you're laughing at a game, it's because something screwed up happened in Grand Theft Auto. Or maybe Saints Row, in which case, yeah, they meant it to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto, but like the way certain things were executed, it's not that the content bugged me, it's just I never was able to figure out what their overall, like, what some of the messages were supposed to be, like, other than just telling you how screwed up, like, our society is. I
was gonna say, yeah, that's the broader point, and you're right, that's like the only point most of the time.
Yeah, like I was thinking about the torture scene, because that was controversial, I guess, in gaming, because a lot of people didn't like it, or that the fact that they had to play through it. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought the message was lost in all of it, because it was delivered by Trevor, of all people. Like, the main point of torture, of why they even did that scene, was to tell you that torture doesn't really yield you any relevant information. In that a person who's being tortured will literally say anything to
get you to stop.
Which is the same thing John McCain said, which is, like, one of the things I agree with that he's ever said. But the fact that Trevor said it, and he's the guy who obviously had no problem torturing this dude, and from what it looked like, he took enjoyment out of doing it because it's fucking Trevor. And then for him to say that, to me, feels the message feels lost. Like it would have made more sense if Michael had said that instead of Trevor, because Michael was the one who actually had to go out and shoot people based on the information that was being given to him by the guy who was being tortured. But even still, the message is still lost to me because none of these characters are good people. And
you're talking about Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. None of these characters are good people. So why even cover that in this game? Because you've had them shoot people or kill people over less. I mean, Trevor's establishing scene was him stomping the life out of some dude who was mad at him because Trevor was banging his girl. So why would I take anything that comes out of that man's mouth like as words of wisdom? Yeah.
But I'm guessing that's probably why they had him deliver it again. Like, look, if you want to try to make an interactive HBO series, that's fine. Just market it as such.
Exactly.
Don't tell me it's a video game because it's not. Like, I'm just going to follow these guys around while they do horrible stuff. Yeah, you're right. The biggest objection to that was the fact that scene was not skippable. It was like you had to actually, I guess, however much you had to participate in the actual torture, you had to.
I mean, you do it. I mean, and they give you a range of shit to choose from with which to torture the guy. I just kept shocking him. Like, I wasn't gonna rip out his teeth or I can't remember or use a hammer on him or whatever. I just shocked him, and I just did that until I did it to where the game would progress.
But you're right. It's like even with that revelation, you would think that Michael or would that's something Michael would say to Trevor afterwards, and Trevor would look at him funny. Or just get mad or something. That's not something Trevor would just spit up after doing this, as he's wiping the friggin' guts off his shirt.
I know, and Trevor
doesn't actually work.
And Trevor, you can tell he's smart, but whatever
he's
was
like the Duck Dynasty.
But he's smart, but he's so screwed up from whatever it is that happened to him or whatever it is that he went through that he just doesn't give a damn. So why listen to anything this guy has to say?
Exactly. And they choose to, like you said, bring out all the... They use him as the exposition with, really serious, logical explanations or explorations of fucked up societal issues and shit. You know what I mean? And, coming out of his mouth, it does kind of make things kind of suspect,
I said that was all probably part of the plan too. But I said I never know why. Like I said, unless it's something like that, even a game like Dante's Inferno. I mean, I think because EA worked so hard to court controversy, they friggin' stomped out the area where the flames would have been.
Yeah.
So
I still haven't played that game.
Me neither.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's it's just there's just all sorts of questionable imagery, quote unquote material.
Yeah, and I have too many little people in this house, so I can't. You know what I mean? I want to do it so bad because I was enjoying it despite all the crap that people said. But there's too many little ears and little eyes, and I'm like, I don't want you to see any of this shit. I don't want you to see, what you call it. Freaking Lucifer Dong hanging around and stuff,
man.
I don't want you to see
flapping in the
freaking, evil Snatch trying to attack you. No, I don't want you to know about those things till you're much, 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 much older. For now, it could be all imagination.
Exactly. Well, shoot, you see what imagination gets you? It gets you that friggin' game.
Well, hey, when you're 11 and when you're 1, imagination is completely different.
Bingo, yes, so, I definitely hear you. But
that's the thing.
I think otherwise it would have been a bigger deal. But no, because they worked so hard to court it. It's like everybody got bored before they got there.
Yeah, no, that game came and went, and I think part of why it did was because everybody wrote it off as a God of War clone, so they didn't even bother. With the game, otherwise I think it would have made more waves.
That game is fucking beautiful. I don't care what people say. The graphics in that game are ridiculous. Some of the cutscene graphic is still ridiculous. Freaking even the in-game graphics are freaking ridiculous. They're on par with God of War, if not better in some areas. Some of the boss battles, those massive whatever they are. Shit just looks amazing, and the fact that it's not breaking up while you're playing, like technically the game is pretty sound. So yeah, people, I didn't understand it, but you know me, I don't listen to what everyone else says when it comes to that stuff.
Well, like I said, I was on the verge of like selling it back, but I'm like, you know, if I sell this, I'm gonna get like $3.
Mm-hmm.
So I might as well just play it, and I wound up enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm glad I went through it. And maybe if you like come up here, you know, sometime during the summer or whatever, you can play it here.
Yep. Yeah, we've already got one trip planned, but yeah, that would be cool.
But no, I don't. But that's just what I think. I think they have to try really, really hard, or like I said, the old standby of sex.
But in fighting games, they don't have it. You know what I mean? Because they never really go really hard with story. They should, because then it would help drive home the points that, you know, we see through the characters, like all the the exposition and character points and traits. They could drive those home better if they give us a narrative to go by. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if the story of Tekken actually had like real cutscenes and shit, so that you understood like timing and where people are and what's going on and how they got from point A to point B.
Yeah, I mean, they would really have to have a writer go in and...
They already did it.
Well, I mean, have a treatment where no matter which character you pick, there's going to be some kind of storyline that interlinks everybody, and they can maybe touch on, you know, certain... they don't have to, but they can touch on a social issue here or there, you know.
Well, some characters directly embody those things. Like, Law was poor as fuck in the beginning. And so he was kind of the people's champ if he won. So some of his ideas, I mean, you want to be a cook, it's extremely simple. That's not like really, you know what I mean? Like, that's the opposite of what you would think for a Bruce Lee character. And it's what he do with the money if he wins. He becomes a fucking cook. And he teaches martial arts, you know? So... Yeah, we have guest ears. This little Strident is in the room. Just smiling and looking at us like, you guys are crazy. So I don't know. I guess that's it for our talking about fucking fighting games and shit. I already got my warnings from the wife. It's time to kind of come back and join the family.
Oh, let me just say this real quick. Then I was gonna try to bring this point up earlier. I just thought about it again. It seems like there's been like a shift as far as, because think of where fighting games were like 20 years ago, and think of where first-person shooters have been for like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, they're in like almost that same exact like sweet spot. Obviously, like the whole arcade and home thing is like that one major difference. Mm-hmm. But like you had these big like Agent O said before, King Ding-a-ling, like fighting games, and then you had all these other pretenders that were like trying to come up around. And then right around in like the mid to late 90s, that's when shooters started to get popular, and then like COD came out, and then you had these games trying to come around and get that same exact audience.
Exactly.
And because the sad thing is like, I mean, fighting games are never going to go away, because like all Capcom has is Street Fighter and Resident Evil at this point. So, but that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see somebody not do something kind of only halfway interesting like Skullgirls. I want to see somebody make a real run at trying to make a decent game. And like you said before, Shredder, actually change the mechanics.
Yeah.
Do like something new with the gameplay itself. I want to see that. I'm not saying I'd buy into it, but I mean, I'd at least look at it. I'd at least talk about it. I'd at least be interested in it.
Yeah, the engine needs to be something new. Like I said, make a fighting game that imitates an actual martial arts film. Imagine an Undisputed fighting game. Like Undisputed the series with like a Boyka style, you know, villain, or not villain, but like last boss, but then all the other characters are various fighting styles. Takes place in a prison. You got the story. Sorry, that's little Strident like occupying himself.
He found the rattle.
But yeah, just imagine that. You know, you have freaking fighters that somehow ended up in this fucked up prison and has this underground martial arts ring.
Actually, the other day I was watching a Vice documentary, because they have these these prisons in Thailand where they train people to fight, and it's for the amusement of like city officials and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what you're saying is like exactly what I'm thinking, because you could have all these random characters. You could have a bunch of Thai fighters in there, obviously, because it'll take place in a Thai prison. But then you also have people who come in and challenge these guys. So there are your other characters with different styles coming in to take on these guys.
Exactly.
And some of those guys that are prisoners training, some of them are trying to fight for their freedom. Some of them are trying to fight for reduced sentences. So you have storylines right there that you could play with. You can obviously talk about prison, I guess, life, or prison behavior. Because it's going to be drastically different from the way people behave over here in American prisons.
Exactly. So much you could do, and the cutscenes. You would need cutscenes. It could be kind of handled like the Fight Night games that came later on, like Fight Night Champion. How it had the whole story about you going to prison and all this craziness, and this is you beforehand. There were flashbacks that you play where you fight your championship fights, and it's just that they're not doing anything outside of what's already been done with fighting games. And then when they try to, it's always some outlandish bullshit like the Kinect fighting games. Like, nobody wants to fucking... Like, I like martial arts. It's been a part of my life. And I don't want to stand in front of my fucking TV in the living room and pretend to throw kicks and punches and pretend to really beat up this guy on the screen. No, I'm playing a game, and I understand that it's a game when I go and I put this into my system. So, like... I don't need that. You know what I mean? I refuse to see how that's going to be the future of gaming. Especially with fighting games.
Especially when the technology isn't there yet for you for you to throw a punch and it actually be responsive to the character that's on screen.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's one of those things where you're like, save that for other things.
I don't know. I wish they wouldn't even go down that route, because if you if you do a fighting game with that kind of game mechanic, like, you're gonna have people of different varying levels of physicality. Yeah. Like, not everybody's gonna be able to do a jumping, turning, back wheel kick.
Yeah.
So they're already gonna be limited as far as what they're gonna be able to do to make their character do in the game. So why even go down that route? Just keep that shit simple. Keep it all on a controller. Everybody can use their thumbs on a controller and press buttons and do combinations and stuff.
And make the controllers better, so we can kind of do away with the stigma that everything has to be played with an arcade stick in order to be official. For you to be a real fighter, you got to be playing with a fucking stick. And it's not comfortable. Sticks are not comfortable. That's kind of why I even as I got older and I'm playing, and I transitioned from playing in the arcade to playing in the at home, sticks aren't comfortable, man. They hurt the inside of your thumb after doing it for so long. So
and then you've got people who are real sticklers for those arcade sticks, where they're like, oh, I have to play with the Japanese style arcade stick because it's a little looser, and blah blah blah. Or
yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I understand there's preference, but then there's also stigmas that go with these things. Instead of trying to always introduce new shit to us, how about you master or, fix the shit that you've already created, get it to the point where it's 100% perfected, and then we can go forward from there. And that's the problem. We're not perfecting anything first and then moving along. Instead, everything is just like, let's get rid of the last thing, just give you something else, Fighting games need, there needs to be a system that's 100% just for fighting games. That would be awesome. I think it's almost that time for me to jet, because the little Strident is just... Okay, never mind. I found something to keep it occupied for a second. But, yeah, we need a system. That would be a really good change. A system all about fighting games, with a variety of controllers for every single type of fighting game players needs. Bless you. You can have all these different types of fighting games from every era. I mean, at this point, it could be done. Yep, it could be done.
Exactly.
So
couldn't have said it better myself.
So yeah, we need that. When it comes to fighting games, that's what will bring them back. Yep, fighting games. You haven't played any yet, but you will.